We live, family.
We refuse to be
Again, we're just gonna chill,
what you wanted us to be.
let it air out, let some people jump into the stream.
We are what we are.
Feel free to be live in the chat.
It's going to be.
Gonna be a mental show tonight.
You can't
Very excited about our guest.
or no equal
Homie Raj
opportunity.
has a lot of wisdom to share with us tonight. So again, enjoy some Bob while we let it air out and let people jump in the live.
Yeah, we've been trotting on the wine press much too long. Rebellion. We've been trotting on the wine press much too long. Rebellion. Babylon system is the vampire. Yeah. Sucking the children day by day. Yeah. Me say the Babylon system is the vampire. Falling empire. Sucking the blood of the sufferers. Yeah. Building church and university. Oh yeah. Deceiving the people continually. Yeah. Listen. Graduating thieves and murderers. Look out now, they're sucking the blood of the sufferers. Yeah. Tell the children the truth. Tell the children the truth. Tell the children the truth right now. Come on in. Tell the children the truth. 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 Come on in. Tell the children the truth. As we've been trying on your wine press much too long, we got to rebel, and we've been taken for granted much too long. Rebel. Trying on your wine press. Got to rebel, got to rebel now. We've been taken for granted much too long. Trampled on. Oh, now we know everything. Got to rebel. Somebody got to
On the wine press, much too long. Rebel. Rebel now. It's a time to stand up and set your mind free, family, and rebel from this system of usury, this mental slavery. We're facing a real situation, family. And we're about to jump in about 3 minutes and chat with my boy Raj about this situation that we're facing.
check out the real situation. Nation fighting nation. Where did it all begin? Where will it end? It seemed like total destruction, the only solution. Ain't no use, no one can stop them now. Ain't no use, no one can stop them now. Give them an inch, they take a yard. Give them a yard, it takes a mile. Once a man, twice a child. Everything is there for a while. It seems like total destruction, only solution. There ain't no use, nobody gonna stop them now. Ain't no use, no one can stop them now. Check out the real situation. Nation fighting nation. Where did it all begin? Where will it end? It seems like total destruction, the only solution. Ain't no use, no one stop them now. Ain't no use, nobody can stop them now. Oh, ain't no use, ain't no use, ain't no use.
All right, Walk in Wisdom family. I want to welcome y'all tonight to the live stream. Got the boy Raj on tonight. And we're going to be discussing some pretty deep stuff, the state of the world we're living in. I'm going to go ahead and pop him on and add him to the stream. How you doing tonight, homie?
Yo, I'm doing good, bro. Just sitting back, observing, using my discernment as well as I can, getting as much information I can, being as vigilant as possible.
That's what's up, man. That's exactly what we need to be doing in these days. A lot of disinformation out there, a lot of things going on as far as various agendas and various narratives out there being spread, man. I think some of the things that we're going to touch on tonight will really reveal the depths of the deception out there. I really think that there's a lot going on, especially that you could be really helpful to the people right now with your skill set and the knowledge that you've been given from the Creator, from the Most High. I think that there's an attack on humanity, but not just on the minds of men. They're going for the minds of men, but the minds of men affect the physical body. This avatar, this meat modem that houses the Spirit of God within us. And so I think that I've really been following you closely on Facebook and watching a lot of the things that you've been posting, and how you've been growing your herbal remedies business. And so I just want you to, if you don't mind, man, I do this with all of my guests, just take as long as you need, man. 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 8 minutes, 10 minutes. And tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell the viewers a little bit about your walk and how you came into the knowledge that you have. Hold on, guys. I got a dog fight happening right here in my...
No problem, bro. I already know your question. I'll just go ahead and answer it. I started researching Dr. Sabi about probably a year and a half, 2 years ago, about a year after he died, 2018, 2019 time frame. And I had really bad asthma and allergies. and so bad asthma that, I mean, I smoked cigarettes since when I was 15. I'm 22 now, but this is all when I was about 20. I ended up researching Dr. Sabi and doing a lot of cutting things out of my diet. You know, I was on a standard American diet, and as I transitioned to a more natural diet, my asthma continued to be alleviated until now. I'm at the point where I go on jogs and hikes every day and have little to absolutely no chest inflammation. And so I was, I guess, just for a general overview of the kind of approach that I take, um, not just with the body and fasting and healing, but just to this experience in general. Spiritually, I study a lot of Gnosticism, and I am heavily inspired from Buddhism, Sikhism, and Jainism. I think all of those four outlooks have so many underlining similarities in regards to the most important aspects of spirituality, like where are we, who are we, where we're going, why we're here, all those essential questions that we should be asking ourselves, but we don't because of all the misinformation we've been taught inside of these public schools and whatnot. And just not inside the public schools, just the information that is dominant right now, dominant outlook, the purely physical, from the goo to the zoo to you type view. Other than that, my only other main focus is, or not main focus, but main part of research I've been doing is in legalese, secured party creditor process, separating yourself from the U.S. corporation, and really understanding what your rights are, what rights are, period, and all those things. So I think that's pretty much a very wide blanket overview of my school of thought, my approach to things.
I think that's amazing, man. I don't think I think a lot of people might get stuck on one of those first uh, uh, things you mentioned, as far as especially spirituality. We get into a school of spiritual teaching, and we can tend to stall out right there without seeking any further gnosis, without seeking any further wisdom or knowledge. And I think that's where where God really used that aspect in my life. Was I was raised Roman Catholic. I got into just a non-denominational Christian church, Judeo-Christian, just pretty much basically what's going on throughout America right now, the popular type of religion, or as they say, it's not religion, it's relationship, but they have no idea what Christ or God even is, and it's really sends you on this journey of seeking God in an outward manner. Some bearded sky daddy coming on the clouds, ready to punish us, and I think that it's really key to continue to move on and seek that knowledge and really go to the depths that a lot of people won't. Like the last subjects you mentioned, legalese, just basic human rights, the rights that we were born with that are unalienable. I think that's really the gist of what we're being distracted from, regardless of what you look at, because there's so much truth in spirituality / religion. There's so much truth in ancient writings and prophetic writings, and there's so much truth in all of these things, science even. But you get it in the way that it's being delivered today. It's basically just what the church has done with spirituality, and it's giving you a twist on it with the doctrine of man. And I see that that's what science has done as well. Science, there can be so much backing for the things in scripture scientifically, but they've been made to war against each other, just like every other divisive subject matter. Even the divisiveness within the church, the different denominations, all of these different views and different doctrines. And so I don't know, man. I really think that some things that I've been stumbling on regarding those freedoms and the right to travel versus driving and operating a vehicle really opened some doors for me, as far as really digging into Black's Law Dictionary, studying that legalese, and digging into maritime law, and learning all about those subjects, man. And I think that that's something that you're really knowledgeable about. And I just want to encourage the people. We will throw a link up, but you admin a page, actually, don't you, on Facebook, called America Exposing American Corruption? Is that correct?
Yeah, exposing American corruption. Name was inspired from Capital Steez. He was a late great rapper, passed away in 2011, right at the end, and in December 2011. And he had a mixtape called American Corruption. That's actually where the 47 symbol that I have on my logo comes from. And it's a boom bap inspired hip hop album that has a lot of spiritual undertones and messages about the corruption, the not just the basic corruption that people talk about on the news with America, but the more psychological corruption, because we know we're being attacked physically, we know we're being attacked mentally, and we know we're being attacked physically or psychologically or spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
Mental is what connects all three of those, and something as simple as like the or not as simple, because this isn't a simple thing at all, but the having non-white people in cities and predominantly white people outside of the cities, that creates huge psychological effects that we don't even see how big that is, changing how we interact with ourselves in the world. And that's what I'm saying, is that's something that he gets into in that album a lot, and something that I've been foundated in with my approach, because I see a lot of people are a lot of times when we come into this sort of information of oneness and how we're being divided, we forget that we're a part of that, and how we can look the other way for whatever reason, whether it be some sort of guilt or whatever things cause people to be ignorant about certain things. I just think that's a really important part to approach, because we got to understand exactly what we're dealing with if we do want to unify in any sort of way. We got to understand how we've been divided, and we've been so divided that people don't even want to look at it and really piece it apart. But yeah, that's basically the main intention of my group, Exposing American Corruption, that type of corruption. But of course we get into the information of legalese a lot, and there's so many different types of outlooks that people have that spread information in that group. So I'll post a link to it in the YouTube chat, because we definitely want more people. We've been at the 1,000 member number for pretty much like the first week it started. For every person that comes in, another person leaves or gets deleted or whatever. But yeah, that's Exposing American Corruption, what we about.
Well, that's kind of essentially what we see going on right now, though, is a huge mind fuck. You know what I'm saying? I think that they're playing on not just the various things that they have over the centuries, the culture wars, the race wars, the divisiveness, and even just keeping people from knowing their own history. You know what I'm saying? I mean, history is written by the victor, and we know that his story is bullshit. And we've had this veil over our eyes for so long that so many people in every aspect of every community and every culture has their own form of cognitive dissonance where they refuse to look past something that they get stuck on, whether it be a religious view or a doctrinal view, a cultural view, not understanding and missing the point that we are all of one source, and there are those that are out there that, and we see it playing out in the projection and the reality that we live in today, that there are those out there that just have a rotten spirit, that they're opportunists. Many people refer to them as evil or demonic, but really what it boils down to is they're opportunists. They're ready to drain somebody of their life force, of their essence, of their spirit that drives them, that energy source of the creator, and divert it into whatever they have planned, knowing that this world is ran through various types of dark magic, chaos magic, sex magic, white magic, tantric magics, so many different types of magic and sorcery that's out there. um, I think that people really demonize so many things, and we got to really start to look at the demon within, and really, I see it playing out exactly like that, man. I think it's key that you touched on that we're being attacked on a physical level, on an emotional level, and on a spiritual level. And so that mentality, the mind is what connects the spirit and the physical body. And man, I see that attack just being played out right now with this fucking psyop. And a lot of people, I mean, forgive me, I don't mean any disrespect, family out there. If you have been told that a loved one has passed from COVID-19, if you've been told that so somebody is suffering from coronavirus, coronavirus is just a whole family of common colds. And so, it's really, I see it as disgusting that a lot of different deaths, and even straight up from a coroner in New York. I could get the screen share up here in a bit, but one of the various tweets and posts that I've seen exposing this shit, this coroner said when they left the night before, there were deaths that were for various other reasons that were actually attributed to COVID-19 when he had come back in the next morning. And so there's a lot going on that people just cannot see through in this. And even the woke community, right? The spiritually woke, the politically woke, whatever camp of wokeness you want to put yourself in. I've seen so many people, homie, that are just stuck on this whole one of these aspects of this psyop, whether it be, okay, some people are stuck on the fact that, okay, well, China released this. It's a bioweapon, right? And some people say, all right, well, it's a bioweapon and China released it, but it was actually created by the Pembrite Institute and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, who actually owns and operates the Pembrite Institute. And there's a lot, even as far as the depths of patents, U.S. patents, that point to proof of this, as far as Bill and Melinda Gates' hand in this. And then you hear these things about Event 201 and the U.S. government running a live exercise. Just the U.S. government fucking, releasing this shit and blaming it on China. You know what I'm saying? The U.S. government, we know that they're just a branch of the Zionist regime, the synagogue of Satan, those that call themselves Jews, but they aren't. That are playing this whole fucking game of hypnosis on the masses. And so it's really being played out in so many different arenas, that mind fuck game. And man, homie, it's amazing to me that people will refuse to at least listen and try and reason through some of these things. And so as far as this mind game that's going on, do you have any suggestions, like anything that you would recommend, things that you do to steady yourself, to put yourself back in that place of balance, because we all, no matter how fucking spiritually centered and aware that we all get those energy backfires or those revelations that really put us in a tailspin. And so we always got to come back to that place of balance. Brother, how what is one of the techniques that you use? Is it from one of the spiritual teachings that you have experienced and gone through yourself, or is it something that you've just kind of come up with as a combination of all of those things? Do you mind sharing on that?
Yeah, definitely. I really had two things to say about that, and one is um, with how we're being attacked with the information in the mainstream media about the coronavirus, and even on more low key levels like the predictive programming with Dean Kuntz's book. I forget the name of it. You may have heard of it. It's been talked about for a little bit now, but it was a book.
Into the darkness. Yeah.
Yeah, that one. It talking about Wuhan 10, I think is the name of the infectious disease in that book, but it comes out of Wuhan and it was developed by a biotech company. More to it than that, but that's the general idea. And then everything with um, the connection with this other biotech company in Wuhan called, if I'm fact checking myself, I think it's RLSW company China. Yeah, it's RLSW. It's this biotech company in China, and they basically have the same logo as Umbrella Corp from Resident Evil.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
To take that to another level to show that it's not really coincidental is that I mean, Corona and raccoon are anagrams for each other, and a lot of people have been speaking about how coronavirus and carnivorous is anagrams to each other.
Yeah.
And so we can see that they're really, really fucking with us with the on subtle levels, on not so in your face um, psychological programming, and then combine that with the actual in your face media fear programming that they're pumping out. That's a recipe for a lot of anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but why I'm saying this is because it's all founded in pseudoscience. It's all based upon germ theory. Uh,
Uh-huh.
you brought it up earlier. It's the germ theory of disease. It was created by Louis Pasteur in the 1860s. He did a lot of debates with his other doctor, Anthony. I believe it was Bergkamp. I'll figure out for sure in a moment. But these two did a lot of debates on college campuses and press debates about whether germs are the main cause of disease or your internal terrain is the main cause of the disease. Um, from the terrain theory of disease approaches it like, and this is actually works in practice. Like we all have an internal environment. It's all depends on our hygienics and our diet, and the only way that any sort of um, so-called infectious disease can be transferred is really through mucus. When they're talking about through semen, it's not really through semen, it's really through prostate mucus that people are calling now pre-cum and thinking it's semen, and it's not really semen. In blood, it's not really the blood, it will be what they're calling white blood cells in the blood, which is really, again, mucus or pus. And so that's what can transfer um, these so-called infectious diseases to one individual to another. The idea that it can go in between the air is completely ludicrous and has never been proven and doesn't even work in practice. Um, but now you look around, everybody's wearing these stupid little masks, right? That we can do anything. But like, you got these people who are clearly overweight, don't ever exercise, eat shit diet, eat fucking pork for breakfast and starch bread, more pork and animal secretions on top, all melted, cooked together for lunch and dinner. And they're scared about this this virus. When if they had the actual knowledge of how the body operated, they wouldn't be doing the things that would cause them to have shortness of breath, cause them to have a runny nose, cause them to have inflamed chest, and all of the flu-like symptoms. Because what we're calling flu-like symptoms are really detox symptoms.
Mm.
And so, what I'm trying to say is, just if we really get into studying how the body works and how the body heals, we alleviate a lot of this potential anxiety that they're shoving down our throat. And then even at that, though, this is the second part to your what you said. And even with that understanding, shit can get scary with this motherfucking tyrannical ass,
Mhm.
aristocratic, motherfucking authoritarian, George Orwellian type system that is getting more and more widespread and in place to make more and more moves every single day. And for that, I mean, it's the only thing I think you can do about having anxiety and fear with that is understanding um, the true signs of spirituality of and Most High, and how um, this really all their wickedness really is being used for a divine plan. Um, and a lot of the shit that we're doing or that's happening, that's being done, is being done largely or not largely, wholly because of the ignorance that we hold on to collectively, be it about germs and germ theory, or 5G not being bad for you, or like not caring about status and jurisdiction and maritime admiralty law and all these other things. Um, it's our ignorance, it's our apathy to these things that allows it to exist. Um, so it's teaching us a lesson not to be ignorant. It's making that Christos consciousness energy come out of us each and every day, because now there's become a necessity for it. It's in your face. Um, and so that's my from there. I even lose hold of that a lot of times, and the only things I can do about that is read certain scriptures, be it from Tao Te Ching, or the different Nag Hammadi scriptures,
Mhm.
um, or whatever you're personally inclined to. Every single one of these holy texts, for the most part, like minus the Babylonian Talmud, and even then, it has a lot of insightful shit in there that you can learn a lot from.
Definitely.
Um, and remind yourself of these truths that we all really or not all, yeah, that all of us really have, but just lose sight of a lot of times.
And I think that that's key. I think that that is going inward and taking those markers that we left self, because I do believe that we are all eternal beings, and we all stem from that source, and we're all fragments. And as we continue to be fragmented out, uh, and that individuality is uh, personified in these various masks that are created via that programming, whether it be through TV programming or the programming of your parents when you're young, or the public education system, and so I think that knowing that we are all connected in that way, number one to source, and then number two to each other, via that life force of the Most High, that actually gives us life, that actually is the essence of who we are, right? The sons of God, as it says. And whether it's through Christianity or whatever religious upbringing you had, whether you're an atheist and don't believe in God, everybody is created. If you have genes, if you have blood flowing through your veins, then you know there's a part of you that knows deep down inside that there is a higher power, that all of this is created from, by, and for. And so I think diving down into those truths that on that deep genetic level on that spiritual level, right? Because we know the truth from the lie. I think that's why we're in the position we're in our society, in our world today, is that we've been taken to the top of the mountain, just as Christ was, right? We are the body of Christ, and so we are the Son of God. We've been taken on that mountaintop, and we've been shown this materialistic realm that we really don't want to give up, and even in light of what might lie ahead in the transmutation and transfiguration of our bodies. And so I love the fact that you touched on the point that right now, as we go through these flames, we should actually kind of welcome them, because it is like the crucible that burns away the impurities, right? I've been looking a lot into alchemy and seeing the way that, that first step is calcination, and those flames actually burn away a lot of the loose minerals that take away from the purity of that salt, right? And so when salt loses its flavor, it ain't good for shit but to be trampled under feet. And so brother, I think that it's spot on and key that, we have to return to whatever it is that we know is truth within, that all of these things are working together for the good of all of us, man, because whether you're selfish and you love yourself or you truly do love God, that power that's much higher than that persona that's been shaped in this lifetime, you do understand that truth, and you do have a desire for that good. Even that's one of the things that I think a lot of people miss, is those that are programmed into this mindset of using, of lording over people, of abusing, of damaging people, are actually some of the most damaged and most programmed people. They've been the ones that were actually put through these mind programmings, the MK Ultras, the satanic ritual abuse, all of these things that the public really just isn't ready to face, actually happen behind the scenes. You know what I'm saying? And so when we return to that point of self, of truth, because that's what truth is right. That's that self-realization that truth is that God is in you, that you are that true essence of who you are is of God. And it's one of those things that when you realize that, you really can begin to understand all of these things and see how through that storm, man, people, I remember being a kid, I hated it when it snowed too much, when it rained too much and I couldn't go outside, but I sure fucking loved the green grass that rain brought. You know what I'm saying? I loved picking my mama some flowers on the way home, and that shit wouldn't have been possible without those storms, without those the seeds being scattered from the previous season. And we see that throughout life, man. Every season, there's every point in life, there's a season for everything. There's a time for everything in every season. And we're in a new season on a grander scale. And I don't think people realize that as what we're coming into now is a time of creating from nothing. And I think that's wonderful and beautiful about what you do, is that you take what many people would look at as useless or aged information, and you make it relevant, man. And I think that's what a lot of people miss in those of us that have this to offer in this time, because it is very relevant, man. I think that you touched on a lot of what you touched on is very significant regarding the things that they're doing that are right in our face, but then also the things that are hidden and coded in the numerology, in the words, the actual etymology of these words. And again, I did a little build a while back. I think that's one of the first times that you and I linked. And when we first linked up on Facebook, is I did that build on the etymology of black. and the whole Black Lives Matter movement, and the way that it's really a mental programming. And to blacken is to actually to bleach. Black is from the word blanch and bleach. And so, it's important to know what you're speaking, because what you're speaking has power. The scriptures say that there's power of life and death in the tongue, correct? And we really got to keep that in mind when we're speaking about our own lives and about the things that are going on around here. And, you touched on the fact that even there's significance in the Babylonian Talmud. And that's actually one of the things that opened my eyes to this uh, this chaos magic that's being perpetuated on the masses right now, is going through that whole process of trying to understand or understand, rather, the whole as above so below, the tree of life and the tree of death, the clipoth. And it's just one of those things that it can really even send you into one of those times of despair, like, man, this shit's so dark, right? Especially when you get into the parts of the Talmud where it talks about the goy and all of these new laws about being able to rape the goy or kill the goy without any repercussions, and but I do, in a sense, see it as necessary for some. It was definitely necessary for me to really get a grasp on how uh, how such a small select group of people can have such a stronghold, a mental stronghold on the masses, and really send people down so many different rabbit holes. The Vatican, the Jesuits, and all of the things that you said that are truth. It can take you years and literally a lifetime to go through these things, man. And so, what is it that you've been finding the Most High uses to really get you to interject in some of these in people's lives that aren't ready to receive these things? I've seen different approaches from you, where you're just kind of like a slap a motherfucker in the face with the truth, and then where you take the time to just type all these things out, a long explanatory post about the way these things actually work, and the way the body functions, and the way these things are spiritually relevant. And so, what have you been finding is the easiest way to just allow source to flow through you, man? When you're facing these, to me, man, I get frustrated, and I'm like, man, these fucking sheeple that are asleep and ignorant, and I find myself falling back into that negative aspect of a downward spiral of anger and bitterness. You know what I'm saying? And so, is that something that you've experienced yourself, and how do you avoid it, and how do you best redirect that energy in a positive flow?
I mean, yeah, you pretty much put the nail on the head with it with my approach. So I either have taken a slap motherfucker in the face, or take my time and go through points A, B, and C, and why we're saying the things we're saying. And reason being is because I think the only thing you can do is really take it on a breath to breath basis and just feel out each interaction. If I already feel like it's not going to go anywhere from the jump, then I'm not even going to put in the effort and the energy to try, because I know that it's just going to make me more frustrated.
Right.
And I really have been less and less, especially with all this crazy shit going on, taking so much of a I don't know how to put it, so much of a staunch approach to it, because all of the frustration, the anger that I'm feeling with this stuff is not really productive to getting people to understand what we need to understand, to not have be tricked in the ways we're being tricked. And a month ago, it wasn't so damn urgent. Now, and I hate to use the word urgent because that implies being in a rush or anything, but like, the ball was 100% in our court. Now they're making moves, and it's still in our court, because really, how I see it, with everything that's going on right now and everything they're trying to do, if people can understand like 3 basic things that germs don't cause disease, your internal terrain does, 5G ain't good for you, and vaccines cause disease and they ain't good for you. Same thing with 5G. We can really get those 3 things to be not even a majority now in America. If like 30 to 40% of the people understand that, I don't think that they're going to go forward with everything they're trying to do, at least so soon. But if people really don't know shit about like germ theory versus terrain theory, or really about these vaccines and completely apathetic to the 5G, I mean, the only thing we can do is let everything play its course. Um, and yeah, I mean, really just understanding the position that we're in has gotten me to take more of a serious approach to it, where so I mean, in this case, by serious, I mean less emotional, less. Um, yeah, this is the best way I can put it is, I guess, a more Shalon approach. Like a lot of times when it's just talking about this information, there's people that just refuse to even um, question or think about these certain things, like any perspective outside of the mainstream narratives. If you're not really taking the whole situation seriously, you're just gonna be like, all right, yeah, fuck you, or fuck it, whatever. But like I said, more recently with how they're making their moves now, it's time we really got to start doing more of these live streams, more people, more of these discussions, be it on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, and not just that, also as much as we can interpersonally, because I mean, this internet's probably not going to be always around. There may be just short sporadic periods without it, but those periods is where they're going to do the most. That's when they're going to make the most moves, when we're without internet. Like right now, there's that whole hashtag film your hospital movement that's going on. We got the media talking about how all these hospitals are packed and all this other shit. Like I just seen Bro Sanchez was sharing this one clip from another person's YouTube channel where she found that it was CBS showing this footage from a hospital, and they were saying, I think it was
I
Italy.
was the head of the largest business unit at Vodafone. They
Sorry,
headquarters
bro.
in
Oh, no,
Sorry. Continue, dude. I was setting something up and I screwed it up. Damn it.
But
All right, go ahead.
yeah, CBS just had this clip from a hospital saying it's all packed, and it was this packed ass, busy ass hospital. But then in America, they were showing the same clip saying it was in New York. It was the same exact clip, and they're saying there's one hospital in Europe, one hospital in New York. So they call it red-handed faking this hype for this pandemic. This very similar thing happened. I'm actually going to put the link to that in the chat. But another very similar thing happened in California, and it was at this one testing site. I think it was in Orange County. It may have been a different county, but it was definitely California. And on the news, there was the lady who was running the place saying that it was packed, that they couldn't even get everybody who wanted to get tested. The line was out the door. But there was a dude who was there that whole day filming it, and didn't one person show up. And he caught the lady who was talking on the news saying it was the lines out the door, and he was asking her, like, what the fuck, why are you lying about this shit? And she just got mad, and she ended up like slapping his phone and all this other shit. But I'm gonna post the links to those 2 videos. But
Dude, yeah, if you got the links, man, I'll even pop them up on screen share because I actually did see that one that you're talking about. And I played one earlier about this dude that was going through um, he's in New York, and he was going around the hospital questioning people, and even one of the higher ups was out there questioning him why he was recording. And this thing has been removed just countless times from YouTube, and so I actually screen captured it. I downloaded it, and I've been uploading it as I can. But that's another one, man. That I didn't even have the time to capture that one. By the time I went back to try and find it, it was gone, and I haven't been able to locate it again. So if you got a link to that one, man, that's dope. I've also got a bunch of shit saved regarding what you said, and so I'll throw that up on screen share as well regarding the the picture from the ICU in Italy, and how they said that that was like the epicenter in New York, and now they have to. First, people were like, "No, that's bullshit. That's just social media bullshit," and then I think it was CBS or NBC had to release an apology for using a false picture, a different picture, a stock photo, or this other news. Sorry, I'm trying to type this in. Um, but yeah, I posted a whole shitload of that stuff on my Facebook earlier. But I do want to share another video because I think it's really pertinent. Let me see. And I want to encourage you guys, if you would take the time and go and just research those hashtags. Just go in and any social media net platform, Twitter, Facebook, even on YouTube. Check film your hospital or empty hospitals, and you'll see that like these places where they're saying is the epicenter, it's really freaking just ridiculous. And also the fact that 5G has been being installed covertly while everybody's on lockdown, and this is also being caught on tape. I mean, I've had people sending me video after video of everybody, these essential workers, right? Essential workers are the only people that are supposed to be traveling out and about and doing their shit. And but you see all of these freaking tech vans at schools, at these places of worship, at anywhere that there's water treatment centers, anywhere that they can really hit hard. There's a lot of these towers next to grocery stores and even warehouses, processing warehouses, where they either process and make the food or store the food before they ship it, or in transit. And so knowing that this millimeter wave technology can actually change things on a cellular level, the cellular structure of these things, it really is mind blowing that people aren't paying a little more attention to these things. And so I do want to play this really quick. I'm going to share this video, man. It's the shortened video. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and jump over here and throw the screen share on. And I'll pop up the picture. I'll pop up the picture. Let me see. There's my post. And I'll pop this picture up. Okay, so there's this one that the media is using this picture of coffins all over. It's being just shoved in people's faces all over mainstream media, saying that this is from this pandemic, when really it's from a movie on Showtime from last year called Unlocked. And it's just freaking crazy, man.
No fucking way.
Yeah, dude. Did you see that? I don't know if you're
I
able to.
haven't seen this one. No.
So yeah, it's crazy, man. They're getting busted left and right. This one here, Candace Owens. Actually, let me close that, and we'll see the photo. What is going on here? All right, so on a Candace Owens tweet, it was saying the number one killer in America is heart disease, 1,002 people a day. Did you know that if you die from heart disease right now and they determine you to be asymptomatic carrier of COVID-19 in your post-mortem, they legally add your death to the coronavirus death toll. And so this one, the reply was this person named Mike who said, I work in a medical examiner's office. Suicides and murders are being classified as COVID deaths if they carry the antibody. It's a numbers game and a sham. And so one of the articles I posted a while back was the fact that the coronavirus, you will test positive for coronavirus if you've had a flu shot anytime in the past few years. That's actually been an ingredient in the current flu shot regimen is coronaviruses. And so regardless of, I mean, if suicide, again, if you're a carrier of this, and there is the one that you were talking about here, the photo
Yeah,
shared
that's it.
last week, yeah, dude, that's freaking crazy, right? Like, what is the purpose behind this? What is it? 5G. That's what I think. It's 5G. Get people to stay in the house, start installing this dangerous type of 5G, because I've also heard, man, that I don't know if you've heard this, but I heard a report that uh, okay, so Israel was supposed to be the only country that wasn't getting 5G. And I got a report from somebody, a friend that lives in the country, that they were actually getting 5G, but they were actually getting the fiber optics version, which is the underground fiber optics version, which doesn't use a Wi-Fi, or in other words, a millimeter wave. Um, to transmit. And so there are ways to use this technology that isn't harmful. And supposedly that's what they're doing in Israel, is they're implementing a fiber optics 5G network. But some of the first places in the world that implemented wave spectrum 5G were Italy and China. Go figure, Wuhan, China. And so they started seeing these symptoms, not only in people, these coronavirus symptoms, but they started seeing animals drop dead, birds drop dead out of the air fucking a year ago, over a year ago, when these things first got switched on. I remember watching videos just hours after the 5G network got switched on in Italy, and there were flocks of birds that couldn't get their own fucking direction, and they were running into each other. They were falling out of the sky. They were literally swarming, trying to get away from these waves. Which, if I'm if I remember correctly, man, a lot of people say that it is literally like burning from the inside out. And so, uh, have you kind of come across that with what they're doing with the chemtrails and the soft metals that they're putting in there? The barium, the aluminum, the strontium, all of these soft metals um, can actually ignite like tinfoil in a microwave. And so I'm sure that that's something that you teach about, like fucking throw the microwave out, right? Like,
Oh yeah,
don't
those things are
microwave
little fucking radiation cannons every time you turn them on. If I be at a friend's house and they turn it on, I go to the other room and shit.
and it destroys the food, man. I mean, it literally kills any positive aspect of your food.
I mean, even cooking it will, but that's straight like radiating it, not just cooking it. It's cooking it with radiation instead of cooking it with fire or heat. It's a completely different style of cooking it, and one that it does, because when you cook any, like, let's say you just cook some kale or whatever kind of raw vegetable, enzymes can't be cooked. Enzymes break down when they get exposed to high heat. And so enzymes are a catalyst for digestion. Every time you eat, let's just say, an apple, there's a specific kinds of enzymes in that apple, and those enzymes help facilitate the processing of that apple. And so, I mean, no one cooks apples, but if you cook the apple and ate it, then you would have destroyed the enzymes, and now your body has to produce more acids, because enzymes are a type of acid. But your body has to produce more of its own acids to break down that same apple or kale or what have you. And now just imagine that same process with radiation. It's taking it to a whole nother extreme. But yeah, like you brought up with the chemtrails and the dropping of the barium, the strontium, aluminum, all the different metals. An interesting demonstration that people can watch or even do themselves to kind of understand what radiation does with around certain types of metals. You can take um, steel wool and put it in a ring, a big ring
Mm.
inside of a cell phone, and then just set the cell phone inside of the ring. Then I've seen this done with iPhones. I haven't seen this done with non-iPhones, but then call the iPhone that's in the center of that ring, and the steel wool ring will ignite, literally. Um, Not straight up burst into flames, but it will start to burn up. And when you see all these tests that people have been doing for years, there's a lot in California where people have been taking samples of the ground and testing them for these different metals. Um, it all comes together with the 5G rollout and how potentially or how objectively dangerous these different devices are, and how they're being made even more dangerous through shit people have been refusing to acknowledge, like the fact that we call them chemtrails, and that's like what they are. They're chemical trails. These metals are chemical agents, and they've been saying that chemtrails are a hoax for so long, but now they talk about stratospheric aerosol injections all the time. So uh, it's soft disclosure. Not only make it funny first, we know what they're doing, but um, yeah, I wish this stuff it's easily confirmable right in front of our face. Anyone just can do it. And as long as we just put the right things together, like connecting this with the stratospheric aerosol injections, with how they're using coronavirus to roll out 5G. Everyone's at home right now. It's putting a strain on the internet. I've seen these tech companies, these service providers, trying to use that as an excuse of why the current fourth generation isn't strong enough. You probably noticed, I've noticed that the internet has been fucky the past few weeks. A lot of it is them
Yeah.
changing and updating their algorithms because they're saying they're having less people working, like YouTube and PayPal and all these different companies are sending their people home and now just doing everything um, on algorithms. I see you just pulled up that video. That was it right there, and that's what's happening to our bodies basically. Um, and that's what's making people drop down in fucking Wuhan. Um, what that's reminding me of too is uh, have you seen the video with all the people? There was two specifically. Actually, there was one where all these people, all these Chinese were. I don't know. I think it was Wuhan. I may be mistaken, but they're all yelling out the window, "It's fake! It's fake! It's fake!" And then around the same time, this one dude, I forget, he was some government official, but everyone was heckling. The way the news articles phrased it was getting heckled, calling, saying that everything is fake. But the Chinese out there, it seems like a lot of them understand that this shit really isn't what we're being told, and this is just kind of just being used as an excuse to further the uh, globalist agenda, so to speak.
Mhm.
But have you seen it? You seen those two videos?
I haven't, man. I'll definitely research them. Maybe I can pop them on here in a
Yeah, I'll
minute
post
after we
the link.
watch this other one, man. If you got the link, yeah, throw it in there. But I agree, man. I think that they definitely know, man. They know. Here's the thing, brother. What was going on just a few months ago, last summer, last spring, last summer, even the fall and the winter before that, all of these issues, global issues, were coming to the surface. People were understanding that global warming is a hoax. People were understanding that the foods that we're being fed are poisonous, that glyphosate is killing our fucking, not just our nation, but our world, even though a majority of the world has guidelines that don't allow that kind of shit to be put in their food. The fact that these I think it's 5 or 6 corporate conglomerates that own every fucking every store, every corporation out there, through their umbrella corporations. Um, they're sneaking it in, even in the UK, even in these other countries that they say they have these guidelines that they're not allowed to put these chemicals in the food. And it caused an uproar, man. I mean, it was a fucking global protest. I mean, France was on fire. China, I remember watching videos of freaking people literally going through the provinces, tearing down the facial recognition cameras. And so that's pretty
Nice.
crazy that these fucking uprisings all of a sudden just fucking quit. And why did they just stop? Because everybody started getting sick. And if everybody puts the dots together and connects the dots, here in the United States last year, as a precursor to all of this, right around the time that these uprisings were starting, there was this huge pandemic about vaping and how it causes popcorn lung. And if you look at the very, very, very same symptoms of this COVID-19 and the way that people are quote unquote dying from it's essentially that popcorn lung symptom from vaping. And so they were testing it on our youth that are vaping last year, and it's radiation poisoning, man. It's through millimeter waves. And so I think that fuck, dude, if you could find those, that'd be awesome. I'll definitely share those all over the fucking place on every platform, because that's huge, man. When people are they're literally trying to tell the fucking world, uh, they're pinning it on our country, and all of it is fucking fake. And so yeah, definitely, man, throw those in there.
Yeah, I found one of them I was talking about. It was the vice premier that they were all yelling at when he was walking the streets with the media. I couldn't find the other one. Most likely got taken down. So many videos are getting taken down right now. But yeah, 100%. It's we could see that like um I got like 3 thoughts running through my head right now. We
Oh
can see
man.
that in the nations without or with the least or with no 5G rollout and with no um, chemical foods being promoted, even if it is still a shit diet. I'm specifically thinking of Russia right now. Russia is out of all the European nations really has little to no coronavirus cases. Last time I seen it was 0. They have no 5G. They don't have any like Monsanto company or Monsanto style crops being grown with that same way. They're very against that out there, and their diets are still shit, but they don't have these few key things that are really um, creating these issues that they're calling coronavirus and calling all these other things. Like I'm sure that they don't have vaping like vape culture like they do out here out there, because they did a whole dialectic there with it's not smoking cigarettes, so any studies done about the harm of vaping chemical clouds, then it must just be big tobacco, when it's just another industry that, and it doesn't change the actual negative effects of vaping chemical clouds. um, we can see that as it's these few couple things that is really being used as the are just being used to set the precedent for their ends to further their agenda. Um, I know Event 201 was something that you wanted to touch on, and how closely that relates to Agenda 21 from the UN. Um, it can't be ignored, and it's just that people haven't heard of these things. People think that the White House coronavirus task force is who's really setting the precedent. When no, it's things like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the World Economic Forum, the WHO, the World Health Organization, all of these,
CDC.
yeah,
Yeah.
the CDC, all of these different, and plenty of more that our communities have been talking about for so long too, with the Bilderberg
Mhm.
group and the Trilateral Commission,
Mhm.
all of these different international um, policy formulators. I don't know what the actual correct terminology is for what you call these organizations, but or even if there is one, but um, it, I really started looking at those things and just making those more uh, household name common talking points. Like it's not their plans, their moves, they're not as effective. They really rely on people holding on to ignorance. They really rely on that. And once you take that out of the picture, they're smart. They're with the level of surveillance that they have, with the amount of AI that they've been using, they know when to pull back.
Mhm.
And I'd rather see them pull back with the 5G rollout and with the coronavirus vaccines than them really try to go all in with them. And like I keep saying, the only way that's going to happen is if you really get into these germ theory, get into these um, international groups that are really setting the narratives and the agendas and all whatnot.
Definitely, definitely. And I'd love to have you on again, bro, just to discuss that whole pyramid of hierarchy and the way that this system has been built and taken advantage of. A system that was set up originally for the people to bring an equality back into the fold was usurped and again just turned into this capitalist state of usury and it's a handful of families and a small amount of bloodlines that have just really gotten a stranglehold on basically on the world, man. And I know that you're really knowledgeable about that stuff, and that's one of the things that I really love to delve into. Tonight, I am going to keep it a little more on Event 201. I'm just glad that you touched on that because I want to encourage you, family. Again, whether you're catching the live or if you've caught the replay, every single thing that my brother just mentioned, I encourage you go research it. The Trilateral Commission, the World Health Organization, the CDC, Illuminati bloodlines. I mean, just research the military industrial complex. Just so many things that really will begin to connect so many dots as to why we're at where we're at. And so I did want to again touch on Event 201. You mentioned that, and so I'm going to go ahead and play a video, man. I'm going to do what I did last time and just mute the mic and put the screen share on and play just a few minutes of this video regarding Event 201. And I am actually going to start it at like the 8-minute mark when Dr. Michael Ryan, he's the executive director of the World Health Organization Health Emergencies Program, starts to go in about exactly what they were doing here. It's a global pandemic exercise, and it's amazing. This was held last year, I believe, in November. I know that's when this was posted. It was actually in October, October 18th, uh, 2019. And the people that the channel I'm sharing it from is Center for Health Security. And so, again, this is just basically the replay of their presentation. And there's some pretty disturbing things in here, considering the fact that many of us do know that essentially what this exercise it's been put live. And so this is really going to be explaining a lot of what they're projecting is actually what they're going to be trying to interject and trying to project, get us to project and get the world to project by buying into this this narrative that they're putting forth. And so, brother, sit tight, and I'll get your thoughts on this video. Well, I set up another one because there is another one that I want us to touch on, along with an article regarding nanotechnology. I've seen somebody in the chat asking about nanofibers and nanotech. And so I've got an article regarding coronavirus bioweaponry and the activation of this nanotechnology by 5G, along with a video from the former Vodafone boss who blows the whistle on the 5G coronavirus scam. And so sit tight, and I'm going to get this video up, bro.
Yeah, most definitely, most definitely.
Greetings, distinguished guests, and thank you for this opportunity to say a few words at this year's event 201, the high-level simulation exercise for pandemic preparedness and response, hosted by John Hopkins Center for Health Security, the World Economic Forum, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
Hosted by who?
Unfortunately, I was not able to join you today. I'm involved in the IHR Emergency Committee for Ebola, but I had hoped to be in the room with you, because the issues you will be dealing with over the next hours may be tabletop exercises today, but they address real and critical threats, which we at WHO take very seriously. Without a question, epidemic risk has become a global strategic concern. I don't think we've ever been in a situation where we have had to respond to so many health emergencies at once. This is a new normal. I don't expect the frequency of these epidemics to reduce, and in fact, vulnerabilities all over the world, developed and developing countries, have increased, not decreased, driven by many, many factors, mainly through human behavior, economic development, population density, and many others. The scenario you will be presented with this morning could easily become one a shared reality one day. I fully expect that we will be confronted by a fast-moving, highly lethal pandemic of a respiratory pathogen. Question is, are we prepared to globally respond to the next major pandemic event? Are we ready to cooperate and perform across countries and across sectors to face such a threat? Have we established the surveillance and risk assessment systems, the communication tools, the supply chains, and the business continuity plans that will be needed, not only to protect health in a major epidemic or pandemic, but to protect economic development, to protect political and social systems?
All right, so I just want to pause it right there because just in that short amount, I also like to pause so I don't get tagged and get my video flagged and removed for copyright shit. Everything I share is for educational purposes, and so I give attribution, which I already did, and this is all public, available to the public anyway. And so I did want to stop there real quick and just mention right off the bat, he touches on the foundations, the very foundations, the Pembride Institute, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, various other foundations that are involved in these exercises. The John Hopkins Institute is hosting it. And then, he goes on to say that, it's not a matter of if, but when, and that this is going to be the new normal. He doesn't see it decreasing. And so, again, these are things that they're putting out to soften the blow for people when they start to tighten the noose and tighten the rope and really put in place more and more sanctions that essentially will be what I've heard is going on in New York and in San Francisco is essentially it is martial law without calling it martial law. And so, right off the bat, we got those indicators. Is there anything you want to add, Raj?
I mean, really notice how much they're using that phrase, the new normal. I never heard it before all this coronavirus stuff, but this was obviously from before then. And again, going back to predictive programming, they're talking about it here, that phrase, a new normal, the new normal, all back when, because wasn't the eventual one, it was in 2019, right? Or was it
Yeah,
2018?
October 2019.
Okay, yeah, so
Yeah,
extremely
before all
recently.
this. Yeah,
And
it was literally right before all this shit started, and so
I
they
thought it
had
was
this
honestly
event.
at the beginning of the year, not closer to the end. I didn't realize it was that soon, in accordance to all this stuff. But the point remains, that phrase, the new normal. You see that and saying that everywhere on all, whether it be Fox or CNN. I guarantee you, they had either a lot of people who have been studying the human psyche or AI literally come up with that phrase, that buzzword to keep on repeating to help people ease into uh, more government restrictions on commerce and on your travel, and to also, um, and also while bringing out this 5G. Notice he in there, he talked about, will we have the surveillance to combat another virus, the next epidemic? That's another thing they're using the COVID-19 scare for is, and that's another reason why they're saying we need the 5G network, because to have, because I'll drop this article in the chat and in the stream chat, but it's basically talking about, and this is from the World Economic Forum, another one of these huge, big international groups that are setting the agenda. And it's how personal data could help contribute to a COVID-19 solution. And of course, they're talking about how they need more personal information. With that, um, other, you can look this up. This COVID-19 or coronavirus and drones, and how they're in India, they're using drones to sanitize, or like spray chemicals on shit to sanitize, so-called sanitize things. Um, and bringing back to what I was saying, though, they need 5G for that. So we can see how this is all one little agenda that they've all tied together, and we're slow dripping it for a while. I mean, even with, we brought up earlier the Ian Kuntz book, 30 years ago, they're getting us ready for all of this. But then that Bill Gates funded movie or TV series that came out the other month, Pandemic, that's on Netflix.
Mhm.
It goes so deep to how much they're getting us ready for this so-called new normal. Know what I mean?
No doubt, bro. It's just fucking crazy because it's happening right before our eyes. And if people were just open their eyes and see and put two and two together rather than being stuck in the mainstream media's narrative, you know what I'm saying? Like they're allowing the mainstream media again, which is owned by the same six corporate conglomerates that own the rest of the world. You know what I'm saying? They own the media as well, and that's regardless of what platform it is. Fox, if you're conservative and you watch Fox, you're being fucking lied to, just like the liberal that's watching CNN works. And just on an interesting point that they're having drones spray chemicals on people and shit, man. I had this post that I came across that uh, a Facebook friend had put up. Timmy Woody put up via Kelly Kibbe from Ecuador. We have been on a tight lockdown in police state like this for over 2 weeks now. At curfew, which keeps getting earlier, 2 p.m. The curfew over there is 2 p.m. The police drive up and down all the roads with sirens and arrest people and throw them all together in a bus that drives behind them. There are only certain days, 2 days a week now, but they could get stricter, I hear, that you can drive to get necessities. You cannot leave your home even to exercise. People threaten to report you for not obeying and want you locked up. You must wear a mask and gloves. Everywhere you are, everywhere when you are seen in public. Never to get near another person. They spray you down with toxic chemicals if you want to enter a grocery store, and they're spraying down communities and even inside your car. And so, for anybody who wants to doubt that or question that, hearsay, I actually posted that to asking, if there's anybody that can confirm this. I got a lot of friends all over the world on Facebook. If you can confirm it, please confirm it. And I actually got a text this morning from a friend that is church family. We consider them family. From the church we used to go to, and she said that this was actually a message that they had gotten from somebody that they know in Ecuador, and it wasn't quite the same as it was worded in the post that I had shared, but they are confirming that the current curfew in Ecuador is from 2 p.m. to 5 a.m., that they can only drive 2 days a week depending on the last digit of your plate. You can drive to obtain necessities anytime before 2 p.m. But if you're stopped by the police, you got to show the government a form. You got to show a government form and the prescription, or else you go to jail. The curfew for people in the cities does mean literally in their house, not in their yard, not on their property, but in their house. And so those of them in the rural areas or in the sticks with enclosed yards, usually out there, it's like Mexico. You got a big ass fucking cinder block, basically like a jail yard, right? If you have a enclosed yard like that and you're out in the sticks, you can get out into your yard and do work. But groceries, yes, you got to have a face mask, latex gloves, only 20 people in a store at a time. You have to try to maintain the 6-foot rule, and stores open at 8. But the law, it's such a fucking a stranglehold down there, bro, that the lines start an hour before the stores open. And so, can you say fucking Mother Russia? You know what I'm saying? And so that's all that they are able to even communicate comfortably. They can't communicate any more than that via message, because what you just said, the fucking security, they're clamping down on the security. Why? For political reasons, to protect political parties and those that are operating this fucking worldwide psyop. And so I think it's fucking crazy, man.
Yeah, completely. And it's in we can see it's a little more it will be more strict in the more economic left-leaning countries, like you were describing Ecuador, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Ecuador. I'm sure a lot of nations in South America are like that. Only reason Russia ain't like that is because they're for whatever reason they're not hyping up COVID-19. But if they were, it'd be the same thing.
Oh, I think they've already got a lock on their people, just like China does. You know what I'm saying? The only reason China had to put the clamp down and use COVID as a reason was to spark this whole agenda worldwide. You know what I'm
They
saying?
were wilding out more, it seems, than the Russians were. So
Yes, they were.
multiple birds getting hit with that one stone right there.
Definitely. And they didn't just have the pressure from their people on the inside, but they were getting worldwide pressure as well. And so there's always got to be a scapegoat in the narrative as well. And so sometimes governments are willing to be that scapegoat on the world stage in order to get their demographic in line, so to speak.
Yeah, completely.
And so I'm going to go ahead and continue with this video, bro. Let's listen to a few more minutes and see what this person has to say about these things.
Word.
Do we collectively drive innovation enough to face the evolving global threats which we are anticipating? The nature of pandemics is that many countries will be affected at the same time. This is particularly true with the respiratory pathogen, as they are often transmitted by asymptomatic persons. They spread fast. In 2009, the pandemic virus reached all continents in less than 9 weeks. WHO's priorities are to establish a minimum capacity to detect and respond in each country around the world, to develop global strategies for the containment and control of individual disease threats, and develop global mechanisms to ensure cross-sectoral and multinational, multilateral coordination. Innovation and partnership across all sectors are needed, including joint strategies between global health leaders and the drivers of travel, communication, data technology industries. WHO is working at all levels through a variety of partnerships to strengthen national and regional preparedness, such as GORN, the Global Outbreak Alert and Response Network. Through the PIP framework, adopted by WHO member states in 2011, WHO has secured 400 million vaccine doses for influenza, 10 million antiviral treatments, and 250,000 diagnostic kits for the next pandemic. We have completed external evaluations of surveillance and response systems in over 100 countries and carried out more than 50 simulation exercises at country level, looking for vulnerabilities and weaknesses in national systems. This voluntary, collaborative, multi-sectoral process helps countries to assess their capacities and identifies the most critical gaps within their health systems in order to prioritize opportunities for enhanced preparedness and response. The Pandemic Supply Chain Network, part of the Epidemic Readiness Accelerator, which is a project of the World Economic Forum in partnership with many, including WHO. It's a public-private collaboration to develop a globally connected supply chain that can support health emergency operations during a pandemic. Stakeholders consist of product manufacturers to logistics providers, distributors, and UN partners, including ourselves. Michael Griffin is WHO's focal point for the Pandemic Supply Chain Network, and he's there with you this week. Constant innovation and the use of cutting-edge technology is key to pandemic preparedness. In order to pool data and analytics at a global scale for disease prevention, the EpiBrain initiative, a global data ecosystem, aims to build a collaboration of big data networks to understand and predict epidemics. It supports data science, innovation for outbreak preparedness and response. Despite this progress, there is still much to be done. Cross-sectoral simulation exercises, such as the one you will be experiencing today, contribute to a better understanding of the critical gaps, the cooperation required from global businesses, response decisions required from government and public health leaders to minimize large-scale economic and societal consequences of a severe pandemic. I wish you the best of luck, and we are looking forward to working with each of you to strengthen pandemic preparedness.
So, I mean, he keeps mentioning this cross-sectoral platforming, you know what I'm saying? Like, essentially we see coming into play, not just prophetic scripture, but scripted prophecy, man. We see where there's this push for this Zionist government to come into place, and there's actually 72 seats on the UN, which is actually the number that it takes for the synagogue leadership to be considered a synagogue, and the 72 seats are for these Talmudic leaders that are trying to bring together this one world government. Which, man, bro, I see things from the spectrum that it's already been done, man. We're already under a one world government, so to speak, if you look at these things collectively. And so I think that what this guy is really doing here and what's happening with this event is, as you said, there's possibilities of the internet going down, a global economic collapse, and what does that come back to? Problem, reaction, solution, right? The Hegelian principles of and even into the Illuminati principles of chaos out of order. Is that not what it is? Or decay? And
That's right.
and so, you know, I don't know, man. What do you think as far as what do you see as far as this unveiling and what's going on? Do you see it as a type of disclosure for the world that, hey, we're already under a beast system, we're already under the first beast, and what we're seeing now is as things are unfolding, we see this whole QAnon movement and the white hats and I believe me, man, I do believe that I was just completely like torn because I have family that's in law enforcement and but I've been in and out of jail. I've seen both sides and so I'm torn like uh, is everybody a freaking sellout and just sucking the government's dick? You know what I'm saying? And just ready to lock their own family up, or are there really some good people? And I do believe that there are some good people that have some moral code and have broken free from that indoctrination and mental programming, that literal neural programming that they put through when they go through boot camp or whatever governmental programs that they go through to indoctrinate them into the thought process that they do, basically of submission and of submission to their boss and dominance over the common man. Um, you know, shit, I fucking got off track. Um, do you see it as a soft disclosure and a way to keep people under the thumb of this one world government that's already in place? The first beast. Do you see it as this QAnon movement? Let me just reframe that. It's been speculated that this QAnon movement is actually the second beast that is preparing the people to worship the first beast. Is that kind of what you see going on, man? Would you agree with that?
Well, just for context, the whole and for the viewers and everything, the whole idea of the QAnon movement, and it relates to a lot of what you just said as far as just the nature of people in the system, is that a bunch of generals after 9/11 decided that we can't keep letting this international group of really bankers and people with interest in that industry um, control the United States. And that's honestly really believable. Is that the truth? Is that the whole truth? Can people get to that position with that sort of mindset? We don't know. But there is a lot of um, credibility there as far as a lot of the information that um, queuing the QAnon movement has gone over. A lot of it is intertwined with um, everything, and most of it really is intertwined with how widespread pedophilia is in Hollywood, government, and religion as well. And this more specifically the Pizzagate information.
Right.
But how I see it, I think that it does have a lot to do with what you kept saying of the first beast and the second beast, and how it's like for everything they've been doing. They've been creating multiple layers of narratives for different people to fall in line based upon whatever they're predisposed to. And um, just because there is a lot of um, credit and credence to the Q and the QAnon movement doesn't mean that it should be trusted or even um, straight up looked upon as exactly what it's saying it is. Because we gotta remember, we're like this group, this small group of um, international bank, whatever you want to call them, have had the longest time and all the resources to prepare for this. So I would expect them to approach further consolidation of power with having some sort of multiple layers of narratives to look at things. And um, is it possible and likely that there's a military coup d'état? I mean, it fucking sounds awesome. That would be dope, but it's it's extremely unlikely to me. It's one, it's way too convenient. It's way, and it's way too convenient not just for us, but it's convenient for the people with power right now. Because if it's that true, that means we ain't got to do shit. And if we ain't got to, and we ain't gonna do shit, then nothing's gonna happen at the end of the day. You brought up how it already really is a one world system, and if you look at like the what group was that was just the guy was just with the that was the world, was he with the World Health Organization, the guy just now?
Yeah.
If you look at their logo, you see the AE map, and how they're, and if you look at their organization, how they're, what they decide impacts every single land on that AE map.
Mm.
But it really is on a subtle level, on a covert level. They like I forget which Rockefeller said it, but one of the Rockefellers said, "Can own nothing, control everything," and that's their motto. Just control the monetary system of a nation, and that's all that you have control. You don't want owner. With ownership comes liability. If the
Mm-hmm.
Rothschilds openly owned the United States, they'd be liable for everything, as far as just in the minds of the people. But since they control and don't own, they can be detached from all of the moves that are being made. Uh, and so, knowing that, I think that the end goal of these people to ensure that they can never be overthrown in their own minds is the complete abolishment of privacy and private rights. I think that's their main idea. That's their main intention. Because if you look at 1984, for example, the apartments that they live in, it's got that TV that they can't turn off, and it's always spitting out propaganda, and at the same time, it's always recording them. Um, that's like the theme of 1984, of course, is control. But when when you break it down a little further, it's really the lack of privacy, and privacy really is just another term for sovereignty. It's the right to be left the fuck alone. It's the right to make your own decisions. It's the right to stand by yourself, and it's right to maintain um, the inherent God-given rights that you were born with. Um, and if the people decide that they don't need that because they're scared of a virus, or they don't value that because they're scared of whatever which thing these people are convincing them to be scared about, uh, without that private, um, there's no room for the people to make any moves themselves. Uh,
Mm.
and so there are multiple steps that got to happen from where we're at now and to that point of having absolutely no privacy, the complete abolishment of privacy. Um, and I guess to bring it back to just the main point of your question, um, I think that with putting a lot of these pedophiles out to hang, getting rid of getting really kind of disclosing a lot of the dirty shit that they've been doing is kind of beneficial to them at this point. They
Mm-hmm.
got too much dirt on them. They need a way to disclose a lot of the most threatening information that certain groups of the people have to their establishment, uh, before they can make even more moves. Um, and I can see how disclosing that information by way of somebody like Q or the QAnon movement uh, is so beneficial to the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Bill Gates, is the all these individuals. Um, And I guess just the last thing I have to say about all this is, and you had brought it up, how much that they're playing off of revelations and or scripture as a whole, but revelation specifically,
Mhm.
and how what is I obviously don't know I don't know a lot, to be honest, but um, it, are they using it as a playbook? That's what it seems like mostly to me. Are they fulfilling this prophecy themselves, and are we're what's making it prophecy is our allowance? That's kind of how I see it. Um, but I guess to the main point, um, I do see a transition happening right now, but honestly, it is further towards a more authoritarian one world globalist consolidation of power. But whenever there's any transition, um, it can get it's really unstable. Like their system right now, even for their control, is less stable than it was 2 months ago, with everybody making all of these observations, and for something as kind of basic as the hashtag film your hospital, to people really getting into the depths of exposing germ theory. And it seems like a lot of people now are more hesitant for things like vaccines. I haven't seen anybody trying to defend vaccines right now, and I think when the discussion is on the table, certain people bring up mandatory vaccines. A lot of the people that were on the fence are going to go more towards that's fucked up. So the point is that this is a transitioning time with the people who are in control. I think they're transitioning one way, but that leads to potential instability. So at the end of the day, any which way, it comes down to what are we observing, what are we paying attention to, what's our level of discernment, and how much ignorance are we holding on to? Because if we really stop turning away and facing all of this really information head on,
Mm.
like I said at the very beginning of the stream, they can't move forward with they will pull back. Um, so I think I answered your question pretty well.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Um, I think that is spot on. I mean, it's one of those things where uh, you're not only do they think ahead, they try to stay 2 steps ahead, but they uh, I believe it was Crowley, and I don't condone his work. I don't, he was a dark man that did a lot of really just disgustingly perverse and dark sex magic and rituals. That's where a lot of the satanic ritual abuse and ritual rituals like spirit cooking, shit like that, have a lot to do with Crowley's work, and so I don't promote, condone, or endorse him in any way, but you find keys in what a lot of these occultists wrote about, and I believe it was he that was talking about the adept needs to know how to do everything backwards, to eat backwards, to brush his teeth backwards, to get dressed backwards, to read backwards, to speak backwards, and so they've got they've taken everything and flipped it on its head, including the language and mathematics, you see. And so we're out here casting spells on ourselves, especially in these instances where we're taking these movements and making idols out of them, right? That's what I've seen, is that especially among the Christian conservative movement, which really that's the demographic that's been programmed, not only in the aspect of being mentally programmed, but when I say mentally programmed on a neural level, I mean like this is neural programming which is where triggers, what the concept of triggers comes from, where these things will be used to create these things, and it's actually their being one who served in the church in a pastoral position. I understand that a lot of what the Christian church is doing is it's invoking, and they're actually invocation rituals, these prayers and these this worship based off of flesh and blood, which does, if you are willing to face some difficult truths, is deeply rooted in that Babylonian Talmudic system of sacrifice and of actually of blood drinking and blood eating. A lot of the things that you touched on, Q, is supposedly revealing, and it is, regardless of whether it's a psyop or not. I shouldn't say supposedly, because there's no supposed about it. The QAnon movement is exposing the depths of the depravity in these fucking circles of entertainment, whether it be the music industry or Hollywood, the levels of depravity in politics, literally in every aspect of the world stage. It goes back to this again, these rituals, and again, the worship of the black box, and this inverse aspect of Saturn, Kronos, El, who in the Old Testament is referred to as the Father. There's so many gods in the Old Testament. But again, we come back to, I'll digress. When people take and make, they've already made a god out of mammon, out of money, out of government. And so now, as you said, Q is revealing these things, and I believe that it's a soft disclosure to try and get that system to continue. As you said, you're spot on, man. It's to get that system to continue by throwing one faction under the bus. And I even question, man, I want to throw this at you. What do you consider regarding that? Do you believe that these people that are being exposed, because I see a lot of fucking games being played with this whole shit with Tom Hanks and this Hollywood aspect, Ellen, supposedly they have ankle bracelets, and they're all going to be going to Gitmo, and there's going to be indictments that are unsealed. Do you really believe that that these people are actually going to be held accountable, even if there is, because I do strongly believe that the just like the right and the left are both belong to the same bird. All of the politics on a world stage, as you've uncovered in many of the things that you've shared on in the group and on your own personal page, it is they're all puppets for this one world government. Based off of the trinity of government, the trinity that's worshipped, the Washington, D.C., the United States government, which is the military industrial complex, the city of London, which is the financial aspect, and then the Vatican, which is the head, the spiritual stranglehold on the spirit of man. And so do you believe, bro, that these people are going to be held accountable, or do you believe that this is all just another scripted scene on that fucking movie that is the world stage, and that these people, because there's rumors that these people are actually getting ready to go underground, getting ready to go in bunkers, because either A, there's going to be a cosmic event that's going to bring a great cataclysm, or it's going to be a man-made cataclysm using HARP, CRISPR, and CERN to try and create this global catastrophe. so to speak, and make it seem like either a nuclear war or a comet hit or whatever group you're in. If you follow the Nibiru movement and these comets that are supposed to hit, or if you believe that there's going to be a rapture and people are going to disappear, whatever it is, I guess, again, boiled down, give me your take, bro. Do you think that these people are going to be held accountable? Do you think that they're going underground to these dumps, these deep underground military bases, where a lot of this satanic ritual abuse and shit is already perpetuated? What do you feel Spirit has been showing you and all of that, man?
I mean, I definitely lean more towards the idea that Tom Hanks and all these other big Hollywood names are just going out on the internet to promote the narrative and are most likely not getting held accountable in any way. But do I doubt that that's possible? Do I doubt that the ones at the very top, to potentially avoid some sort of karma, may enact some sort of punishment on these people? It's possible. Yeah, it could be either way from my perspective. And yeah, I mean, I guess that's it. It's a pretty
Could be both.
simple answer to it. What's that?
Do you think it could be both? Do you think that they're playing their scripted parts right now, but with the coming, because I think what's coming with all of this traumatization, this mind programming, I've seen it happen in so many people right now. I even think that the various traumas that I faced throughout my life, from being abused as a child, all the way to just the death. My father was murdered. My sister was killed in a DUI accident recently. My wife provided hospice care for both of her parents as they died, one from cancer and one from dementia. And these traumas that you face can spark a kundalini activation spontaneously. And when people aren't prepared for that, it can send them literally through hell in order to find the creator. And so I see that happening right now, is that people are being so traumatized by all of this shit that it is going to spark an awakening, so to speak, to where the people will see through this act that's being put on. I mean, like you said, you wanted to touch a little bit on scripture. In Revelation 13, it talks about the beast from the sea and the beast from the land, the beast from the earth. And so I just want to just read over that real quick, if you don't mind, man,
Yeah,
because
love to hear it.
a lot of perspective to what's going on. At least what I feel that Source has shown me, the creator showing me, as far as how this whole narrative is playing out, and some of the things that have been put out there by other people that are very adept, not only in occult knowledge, but in the very grounded things that are happening in this reality right now. I think that a lot of people can either get spun out on the spiritual side of things and get totally just too far out there, lost in the 12th dimension, connecting with the monad and source. And others, man, even the very spiritual, man, can get deeply rooted and just totally have a downward spiral into this lower dimension, even going beyond that, the 3D realm, and getting stuck in that two-dimensional realm of just having that duality in all things, and having to literally pick a side and not be able to find that balance and take that narrow way that Christ spoke about. You know what I'm saying? That narrow gate, the middle way, and be an observer and just actually take everything in. And as scripture says, come, let us reason together. And that's really what Source in us wants us to do, is to go deep within and reason through these things. And so I'm going to go ahead and read this, bro. And again, if you feel like you need to jump in for anything, man, feel free. You're not just a guest, but you're a brother here, and this platform is yours just as well as mine while we're on here together. And so, the beast from the sea, Revelation 13:1. Then I stood on the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rising up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his horns 10 crowns, and on his heads a blasphemous name. Now the beast which I saw was like a leopard, his feet were like the feet of a bear, and his mouth like the mouth of a lion. The dragon gave him power, his throne, and great authority. And I saw one of his heads as if it had been mortally wounded, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world marveled and followed the beast. So they worshiped the dragon who gave authority to the beast, and they worshiped the beast, saying, Who is like the beast? Who is able to make war with him? And he was given a mouth, speaking great things and blasphemies, and he was given authority to continue for 42 months. Then he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name, his tabernacle, and those who dwell in heaven. It was granted to him to make war with the saints and to overcome them, and authority was given him over every tribe, tongue, and nation. All who dwell on earth will worship him, whose names have not been written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. If any has an ear, let him hear. He who leads into captivity shall go into captivity. He who kills with the sword must be killed with the sword. He is the patience and the faith of the saints. Revelation 13:11 speaks about the beast from the earth. Then I saw another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb and spoke like a dragon, and he exercises all of the authority of the first beast in his presence, and causes the earth and those who dwell in it to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. He performs great signs, so that he even makes fire come down from heaven and the earth in the sight of men. And he deceives those who dwell on the earth by those signs, which he was granted to do in the sight of the beast, telling those who dwell on the earth to make an image to the beast, who was surrounded by the sword and lived, or who was wounded by the sword and lived. He was granted power to give breath to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image as the beast to be killed. He causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads, and that no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark or name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. His number is 666. And so, again, that goes back to what we were talking about. And I don't know if actually that might have been, I'm pulling a double header. So I did a live earlier, and I was talking about how our plasma actually has a crystalline silicate base to it. Our pineal glands are also have a granular crystalline silicate base that when it calcifies, that's what turns it into a rock. But before that, it's loose like sands, like grains of sand. And those crystals, as they oscillate and they vibrate, they actually tune into the resonant of the earth, and also the various frequencies that we receive from the planetary, the celestial lights in the sky, so to speak. And so with all that said, the wisdom that we can get from this, man, is the first beast is that old world order, that system that's in place already, that system that has already been worshipped, that's been given power by the dragon, right? The serpent of old. And again, not to be confused with the serpent that that gave the wisdom of again, if you look into the Sumerian writings and those codex reveal that, you know, the serpent actually was trying to bring this wisdom to man, that we were enslaved and that we were fooled and that we were captive And so not to be confused with the knowledge of the Kundalini serpent that sits coiled at the base of our spine and rises and pierces through that third and left ventricle, again, the narrow way, that snake bite that activates that Christic knowledge that's given to each one of us, right? It's the old serpent, the dragon, that has that mark of man. It's the flesh of man that doesn't want to go through that transition. And so as we go through this process, there's that old world order. And in order to continue to receive that worship, there has to be the second beast. And it's no coincidence that that first beast, where does it rise out of? It rises out of the sea. And if you've done your homework on the Roman Catholic Church and the Vatican and some of the orders that they've put in that have to do with the Holy See, and actually has governance over the world through maritime law, and through these corporate bond systems that, again, we actually are that corporate bond when we have our birth certificate signed over and we get that number of that Social Security and our name in all caps in that straw man. And so a lot of people are having a hard time seeing through this, that in order to continue that, there has to be the beast of the land, the one who seems to bring sovereignty, right? The one who seems to bring that mortal wound that is, or he helps heal that mortal wound, and of the first beast, which is the collapse of this economic system, right? The economic system is collapsing. We see it. The World Health Organization, the CDC, even the governments, the world governments have been pushing for a cashless society. And we see the coronavirus using this COVID-19 being used as a reason to shut down the paper monetary system, which, again, people, we've been under this digital currency for decades already, with the chips in our debit cards and the things, the chips in our IDs that we carry around with all of our information, the little magnetic strip on the back that has your whole profile on it. You know what I'm saying? Like, all of these things are being revealed and exposed through these things in a way that makes it seem like, hey, this is the evil of the world. Now that you're waking up to it, we're going to show you the light. And so we have the satanic system of the cabal that's been in rule and in order for, I believe, millennia. And even though people are waking up from it, then who comes the second beast, the beast that brings the light? The enemy disguises himself as an angel of light, right? And so we can look at the dual aspects of Lucifer, the light bringer. We can look at it as Venus, the mother of creation, the mother who brings forth that seed of creation, the fertility for creation. Or we can look at it in the inverted manner as the Baphomet, and the one who is the bringer of this knowledge of this dark system, right? He's the bringer of light. He's the son of the man of lawlessness, as scripture puts it, who puts an end to these world systems, right? But what happens is this Lucifer, this Luciferian system, is what many people speculate this movement of QAnon to be, that they are the light bringers that bring the light into this dark realm. But it's really that false light, that light that is going to be exposed in the end as well. And honestly, brother, I don't know if that's the narrative. I really haven't seen clearly how it's going to come about, but I have seen that what we've been given in our mind, in our heart, and in our spirit, that mankind, that humanity will see through this. And many people may have to suffer, and many people may have to face a reality that they've allowed to be created for them. but it's really amazing to see all of it unfold, and I think it's a wild ride, man. And I don't know, man. I know that I can get rambling, I can get talking. So I want to give you the floor for a while, man, and just get your take on everything that I just said regarding the beast of the sea and the beast of the land. Bringing in that civil law over the maritime law, and how all of that seems to be playing out with Nasara and Gesara, and the distribution of the world funds that have been being hoarded by this very few powerful families. I did a show regarding how Saint Germain was the one who set up the Templars, and set up this bank fund, this bank trust fund, that was actually supposed to be on a 1-to-1 gold ratio standard, and actually bring an equality across the land. But then that bank trust fund was actually usurped and taken over when Jacques de Molay was burned at the stake, and the Templar order was the Knights of the Templar was taken over by the Jesuit order, and the Vatican, the black nobility, which was already losing control. And so again, I want to give you the floor, man. Do you think that any of that jives? Does any of that resonate with you? Do you see how that could be what's playing out right now?
Man, all that was super, super insightful. I haven't had any, I haven't myself actually read through the specific chunks of Revelation that talk about the beast of the sea and then the beast of the land. But you touched on my main thoughts with it already, and that was how um, the difference between the law of the land and the law of the sea, and how maritime admiralty law are really it's a form of contract law. How that has been used to um, really put everybody in bondage to that system. And once you understand that correlation and look at what everything that's going on now, um, it it's hard not to look at it like that. Really, it's hard not to see it like that. Um, with I lost my train of thought, but with
It's easy to do, man. There's a lot. It's a lot to cover, bro. It's a lot.
yeah, I
Probably
swear,
about like 10,000 thoughts going through your mind right now.
yeah, for real. Um, with the I don't know, I'm pretty just having the same thought I already said. I'm just trying to think of a different way to say it. Um, they've been accruing so much what we would call negative karma by um, stealing and taking everybody's um, right to exist in a sovereign way. And by resetting everything, it's like in the UCC. Every time you make a filing every 5 years, you got to reset the filing,
Mm.
and it's essentially the same thing here. Um, no matter at the end of the day, no matter what, whether it is us awakening to what they're doing during a transition or they're successful. I mean, for all it's extremely possible that everything they're doing completely works out the way they're planning it to. It's just their end goal doesn't work out the way. Like, can you really have people exist without privacy? Maybe
Right.
maybe they get to that point. Only getting to that point is the only thing that allows all this shit to crumble down. Um, any which way, um, it's going to be um, our acceptance, our allowance that lets it get to that point. So that means that there's lessons to be there's insight that needs to be had. There's work that needs to be done uh, on a singular inwards level. Um, yeah, that's pretty much all I remember to say from that.
Man, that's I just I think that that's what people are missing. There it's just such a distraction with everything that's going on, man. All of the various narratives that are out there are literally meant to distract you from having that self-realization that, you know what, I got to stand up and take responsibility and accountability for my thoughts, for my heart, for my emotions, where I allow that energy, because we know that everything is energy and emotions are literally just energy in motion, dash motion. And so where are we letting that energy move us? What area, what dimension, what realm, what vibrational frequency? You know what I'm saying? I found so much that it is necessary, man, to go through the sufferings that I've gone through, even my own self-inflicted sufferings of going down these rabbit holes and having to be devastated because of this truth or because of that truth that I wasn't ready to face. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that you're spot on, bro, that their plan, that the narrative that they're setting forth and the plan that they have in place, it might go through the way that they see it going through in the short run, in the short view. But in the long run, man, I really want to have you back on very, very soon. I want to get you and DZ on, bro, because I want to have both of you on to talk about Project Looking Glass and Project Montauk. And I've uncovered so much deep shit in the research I've done regarding those, and regarding the way the human anatomy works, and the way that our nerve system, the way that it operates, is it's linked together, like your neural network is linked together like little sausages, and each one of these nodes is a potential for it's got a vortex potential. And so it's really it's fucking crazy deep stuff. But Project Looking Glass, the world powers had seen, they built a machine that essentially is what is the name of that movie? Minority Report. Have you seen that movie Minority Report with Tom Cruise?
No, I haven't, but I've heard some people bring it up recently in reference to all this stuff that's going on.
So, man, I would highly suggest, man, I don't watch a lot of TV, but I've been watching some of these older movies because there's a lot of disclosure, and a lot of really what you see is the programming when they get the mind into the theta state, into that lower frequency wave, where it's literally a state of hypnosis where your mind can be programmed, and it builds these neural networks without the conscious realizing it. It's a subconscious type programming. And so I don't give a lot of time to it, but you see in these movies how that is actually implemented. And but check that movie out. And it's a device that they created that they could see into the future, that they are actually using to quote unquote prevent crime before it happens, right? And so a lot of the issues with this technology in the movie had to do with privacy and the faultability, or the actual reliability, if they should be prosecuting people over these things, and anyway, it is very high Hollywood. It's Tom Cruise, and it goes through a lot of it's a pretty cool movie too, but it really points to the way that these projects that were actually worked on, and through the Freedom of Information Act, it's been disclosed that these projects that were going on, the technology that was used was actually, it was crystal technology, and they still had to have a viewer to do this remote viewing, right? And they figured out a way to project things into the future. And they experimented with organic beings. I don't know. It didn't disclose if it was a monkey. I know that it was suspected that it was a monkey or a dog, an animal like that, and that it had really messy results. And so they tried projecting a camera into the future, and this camera actually projected into the future and was able to record these events in the future. And this is called Project Looking Glass. And so with that and Project Montauk, it shows that they still needed a person to operate this, because essentially this device was like a huge pineal gland, but it needed an organic being to operate this thing. And but every time in the end they got the same result, and that result was not good for them. And that's why they're building these underground bunkers. That's why they're trying to play this psyop game and keep people chasing all of these various narratives and spinning their wheels, whether it's in the spiritual community, the truth community, which, fuck, man, I see in the truth community, there's more disinformation in the truth community than there is in the mainstream community. And so, dude, I really want to have you on to talk about that. And so if I send you some information, man, is that something that you'd be willing to do?
Yeah, no, I was just about to ask you for that. I've seen a decent bit about different remote viewing programs that the KGB and the CIA have done in the past. A lot of the ones that I've seen have revolved around certain autistic savant children and
Yes.
remote viewing different parts of the world at the present time. But I've heard the name. The other one was Project Montauk, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that thrown around, but I haven't ever really dived into it. So if you have some good resources on both of those things, please send them my way.
Definitely will, man. Definitely will. That'll be a deep one, man. That maybe that'll be our marathon one, that we just go for hours and hours, man, if you got the time. And I know we've been going for 2 hours and 20 minutes already, man. I'm notorious for going, 3-hour shows, and I try to keep them to an hour and a half, but there's just so much shit to talk about and so many things to touch on, man. And so I don't want to be disrespectful of your time. I want you to, just, if you need to go at any point, just let me know, man. I know we've been in at it for a while. But I do think that, you touched on it really quick before I give you the floor, man. You touched on it, that they might be pushing through a very specific narrative and actually having success at it. But that success is only going to last so long. I believe that in a very short time, I think that really quantum physics proves, and I'll also send you this what I'm talking about regarding the way that it's you can scientifically prove that time has sped up and it's shifted. And so in scripture it says that in the end times that he would even speed up time for the elect. And so it's crazy, man. There's a lot of shit that we can talk about and cover. But fuck, I forgot where I was going with that, man. I'm sorry. I get to rant and just talk. And I think it's cool though, man. I think that it really shows that the energy and the just the vibe of the spirit is really just key in all of it, in what you share, what I share, and collectively what we all gather from it, man. Because I tell you what, when I do these shows, man, I learn and have so much shit confirmed that I've really been seeking about anyway. And so yeah, definitely excited to do that show with you, man. But as far as the narrative right now, the 5G nanotech, have you done any research regarding like Morgellons and the shit that's going on with Morgellons, and any type of like think they're calling it quantum dot technology. Have you heard of any of that shit that's going on right now?
Yeah, I've done a lot of research into the Morgellons. I haven't heard of the second thing you brought up. What was that?
Quantum dot technology. It's essentially nanotechnology that works with quantum computing, and so it's nanotech on steroids, essentially.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I just looked it up. I'm gonna read some stuff on it later. But
Awesome.
what with Morgellons, there's a lot of fear associated with it. Understandably so. Fucking weird microorganisms created in a lab, and that are a lot of people saying that being dropped from the chemtrails and um, information like that. But it really ties a lot back to the germ theory of disease versus the terrain theory of disease, where if you don't have the internal terrain to house these microorganisms, they can be easily flushed out, and they will be easily flushed out. Um, it's like if someone is overweight, super swollen, backed up, they got 20 pounds of fecal matter in their gut and got a inflamed belly because of it. If if their mucus, which contains microorganisms, somehow got into my body doesn't have the conditions to house the internal microorganisms that their body does. So it's going to be flushed out.
Right.
Uh, the microorganisms in my body aren't nearly as damaging or as threatening to the health as the microorganisms in their body. So my mucus ain't going to do shit to them. And just like their mucus ain't going to do shit to me. And it's the same thing with any sort of foreign microorganism or fungi or bacteria. If you don't have the conditions that these things need to survive in, then it's very easy to it will be a passive process. Just you drinking water, sipping tea, eating fruit, and your whatever your diet you have that is a raw diet. Um, they'll be removed. Um, and it's really hard for us to prove this stuff the way that people want to prove. People want studies and scientific, as we know, scientific um, procedures done to prove all of this stuff. When all of the people with the labs, all the people with the potential to do these studies, really they're getting government money, they're getting government funding, and that completely controls what the results are at the end of the day. But what does prove these things is our practices. When we start to approach um, disease from these angles, people heal, people get better. And while that may not be on paper, you can't show someone this study from this one organization that proves that, but you can do the work yourself and see that, and you can see that in other people who have done it. It will get to a point one day maybe where, because like Dr. Sabi straight had a lab. He was straight putting things under the microscope and testing different reactions with different biochemicals and whatnot. But um, a lot of us had don't a lot of the people with this information don't have don't expand their enterprise enough to be able to invest in a laboratory. As soon as we do that, a lot of shit will start changing. The people who do have those resources, as they get that information, um, that'll make a big difference in the way people are approaching everything from something like COVID-19 that's all over the mainstream narrative to something like Morgellons that's more in the conspiracy theory circles. Um, but yeah, that like I said at the very beginning, a lot of it goes back to what approach are we taking to disease? Are we thinking that it is the terrain that determines the disease, or are we thinking it's foreign microorganisms? Because that
Right.
changes everything.
Right. No, dude, I'm glad that I'm freaking again the flow of the creator, man. I'm glad that you went in that direction and shared that bit of knowledge, because I think that was huge in seeing what was going on with myself. You know, I got really sick, um, dropped from 250, 260. I think 260 was the heaviest I got. I kind of floated around 250 for a long time, down to like 132, man. I was bleeding out both ends. I believe that I was just filled with cancer, with pus, with mucus, with just all kinds of stuff, not just in my intestinal tract, but in my stomach, in my esophagus, in my, I believe it was in my liver, my kidneys. um, Man, I think I was facing death, you know what I'm saying? And I really want people to understand that the knowledge that you bring is really key in exercising these demons. I'll just put it that way, because we put so much off on these archetypes and these thought forms, when really a lot of it can be solved by knowing the you know, just the basic biology of our own body. And many of us don't, man. I mean, I'll admit I don't. My family is filled with people in the medical field, but going through this really showed me, you know, being a roughneck, being raised in the hood and raised in I have a couple of different aspects. I have family that had land out in the sticks, and so I was in the rural area, I was in the urban area, I was in you know, I seen both sides. But everywhere I went, I'm a construction worker. I'm a roughneck. I didn't really give a shit always about like washing my hands before I eat. You know, I'll be on a job site covered in fucking dust, dirt, and all kinds of shit. And I'll grab my lunch and out of my lunchbox and eat it with my hands. Won't get sick from it. You know what I'm saying? Eat a piece of freaking bacon and egg that was left over from the morning before, and not have an issue, get sick with it. You know what I'm saying? But the toll that what you put in your body actually does have an effect on how your life goes, uh, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, mentally, man. Like, your body can only take so much of that. I was a heavy meat eater. I mean, I ate meat at freaking just about every meal if I could. You know what I'm saying? Meat at breakfast, meat at lunch, meat at dinner. You know what I'm saying? I'd eat bacon for breakfast. I'd eat a freaking hamburger from McDonald's, of all places, fucking GMO, baby stem cells. You know what I'm saying? Like, fucking garbage. And
Shout out to Dr. Finkelstein. I mean, Rabbi Finkelstein.
Rabbi Finkel. Yeah, man, it's some crazy shit, right? Like, you start digging into those crevices and you find out these things, and yeah, even the people that are responsible for these things. And again, I'll share in a future episode, and I've shared in past episodes, some of the people that are even responsible for engineering this nanotech, these nanotubes that actually look like parasites. They manifest as parasites. They're self-replicating, and they're shaped like parasites. They're literally parasites. But here's the thing: bringing it to this nanotech level is I'm really wondering, is it something new, or is this part of that ancient technology that was hidden? You know, that was used by these, even the Talmudic rabbis, you know what I'm saying, that use these parasites. It's been said that in the first century that rabbis, and even before that, long before that, that rabbis and religious leaders would use parasites and put them in the eyes and the ears of their victims, in an attempt to get a type of mind control via psychosis, making people go crazy with these parasites in their brain. And so I really quick, man, I didn't even have this plan, but I want to, just for anybody who's doubting what you say, especially with the way that I personally, you know, I'm not going to disclose what family member because of, you know, I want to respect their privacy. But I have a family member who is struggling with Morgellons, and you know, I've been talking to them about their diet and things like that, and the fact that if you don't give them an environment that they can live, you can actually flush these things out. There's a way to do it, because I think that when I started to get healthy, my body started flushing these things out, and that's when I hit a wall and got really sick and almost died. Was I think that my body was detoxing too fast, and it was literally killing me. And so there is a way to start detoxing. You know, 3-day fasts, 3-day water fasts. You know, just drink distilled water, flush as much out as you can, and then start with a fruit fast. Vegetables, start moving towards more fruits and vegetables, because if you just go all in the way that I had for a short moment, your body can go into shock, and you can actually, that transition that you go through on a physical, on a mental and a spiritual level will actually manifest in a physical way, in that detoxing, because you'll notice as you go through these things, you'll go through emotional purges as well from the traumas you've faced before, and you'll go through these purges from these spiritual dogmas that you've been placed under. And so a lot of these things, as you shed them, your body begins to shed these things as well. And so anybody who doubts these things, I want to share this video. I think it's like 13 minutes, and it'll really, really put into perspective what Raj just said about um, even literally the nanotechnology that's been modeled after these parasites that induce a psychosis or trauma-based mind control. Um, as everything advances, so does the means of their deliverance, but their methods, or the methods and means, but they're the same basic concept behind the so to speak, the method behind their madness is always the same. And so that's the reason we're seeing the Morgellons, and the fact that it is actually nanotech, and that is just really a basic form of nanotechnology that again has been going on for decades, via the spraying, the chemicals, the GMOs, the glyphosates, all of that shit that's put in our foods and in our air and in our vaccines, the, you know, the various fragmented DNA through the various stem cells that we take in with these vaccines. And again, it's being put in the food via colorants and preservative methods, or chemicals. At least they're being passed off as preservative and coloring methods, but they're in chemicals, but there actually are fragmented DNA and stem cells from aborted fetuses in these things, you know. And so if are you good on time, man? Are you good to go a little bit more?
Yeah, I'm going to go for a little bit longer, and just to build on that a little bit, just from my own personal experience, I've totally felt the correlation between these things that we're calling parasites that live inside us and their intelligence that we will commonly refer to as demons or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The way that they hijack your nervous system in the gut, because it's the second most concentrated place with neurons. Second, first, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, first of course being the brain. But how they can completely influence your day just upon the impulses that are sent to the brain. It's something like you smell something, you're reminded of a memory. You hear something and it brings you back, and then that triggers you to do something. And a lot of times it can be something that you know isn't objectively good for your health and for your body, and that means it ain't good for your mind and your soul, and you do it anyways. Why? What is these things? Um, there's a lot there. I remember earlier what you when you said with your detoxification healing, with going from 200 some odd pounds to the lower hundreds. You described it as kind of an exorcism, um, and we can see the phonetic correlation between exercise and exorcism.
Mm.
Um, that's really what the flu is. What getting sick is, getting hot to burn off some shit that's causing some problem. 9 times out of 10 is going to be some sort of what it may be plaque, it may be mucus, but other times it may be a worm. Other time it may be a colony of some other shit like candida or thrush.
Mm.
Um, but it's an exorcism. It really is. And what you said after that is really really important. With um, you described it like um, detoxing too fast at once. Um, most people describe that, they call it a cleansing reaction. I've heard it also described as a healing crisis, but it's essentially just your lymph getting backed up because uh, so much waste, would be it calcium deposits, scar tissue, dead cellular debris, plaque, mucus, pus, being removed from the body at once, from the kidney, the gut, the liver, the veins, whatever part, all being exited at once. In my case, I ended up getting some pretty bad rashes on my arms on the other side of my elbows, and I had them for probably, must have been like 6 months or so, and it was really from, that. It was um, it's like, all, like, imagine a highway, and um, the 5 lane highway merges to a 2 lane road, and 5 cars try getting onto that 2 lane road at once. That's what happens in the lymph when if you really jump into detoxification healing, um, like head first, without kind of going through some transitionary steps. I think the best way to transition from it would be to something as horrible as a fast food diet, to even if it's just like a vegetarian diet, like you were born in India and had been eating just plantain cheese your whole life, and and cooked plantain cheese. You may still have some health problems, and or develop some health problems from that, and with other things maybe too. But um, no matter which level you're at, I think transitioning to a more clean diet by way of a juice fast first is the best way to do it. And it's difficult, because it is another form of jumping right into something. But a lot of times when people start trying to heal, it's because they know that their health has gotten so bad. And for in my case, it was asthma. I couldn't breathe at night. I couldn't go to sleep without taking albuterol, and I
Mm.
ended up being physically addicted to albuterol. I couldn't de-inflame my lungs without taking some of it. Other people, it may be um, some heart problems, or you're getting weird feelings in your head, and you can't walk right, and all these other problems. So you go to the doctor, and he tells you they want to cut you up and remove the calcium deposits from your heart. And that shit is fucking scary. Like, I just seen a video of someone describing their experience with going in and getting invasive heart surgery. That shit is fucking madness. And they could literally just get around that by doing 3 months of a liquid diet on just juices with alkaline herbs. And
Mm.
there's no sort of what is it called, autolysis, where the body goes into cannibalism mode. It's that on light forms, because you're not having as, like, if you're on a standard American diet, you're having, like, I don't really think calories are a good way to describe and look at all of this, but you're having fucking 1,000, 2,000 calories a day because you're eating such dense stuff. You transition to just eating all raw stuff, you're just going to have less, so it's less to process.
Right.
And that's not the same as when you just have herbs and water, or just have water. But since it's less intense and you kind of need to go for a little long stretch of time, the best thing to do is really get on liquids until you don't have your health problem anymore. And some people maybe 2 weeks, some people it may be 3 months, some people maybe 4 months. But around 4 months, if you have some sort of respiratory or cardiovascular disease, because those are really the hardest a lot of times to heal. Things like diabetes and AIDS can be reversed in weeks, easy, like much easier than some like a big calcium deposit in your heart, shit like that. Like that's a lot of the reasons why people get invasive heart surgery. That's a lot harder um, to break down and remove from fasting than just getting rid of the so-called AIDS virus. But um, the point I'm trying to get at is there's uh, there's different ways to transition to it, and it's a tough thing that a lot of people go through, these healing crises or cleansing reactions or whatever. Um, that is my own personal view. I mean, kind of deserve it. I hate being like that. I hate doing it because it's hard. It's so hard, but like
Yeah.
there was so much hate that we had to have had for ourselves to get to that point. And
Right.
it really is a form of karma, and it's hard to accept that. But when you do, that's accepting full responsibility. And when you start accepting full responsibility, you're really able to take control and or give up attachment and just and let the Tao and nature play its course and allow things to um, really work out how the universal will um, is taking it. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. No, that's good, man. That's good. That's crazy that you mentioned that kind of timeline because I really hit the wall in November, right? It was November. It was Thanksgiving. And so going through these various cleanses of just not eating, fasting, and then working myself back together with some broth and just working myself back up to like greens and fruits and just concentrating on eating those live vegetables and fruits, because again, the aspect that you shared regarding the enzymes, the cooking of these foods killing the enzymes and the body having to produce that excess acid, is really, it just adds on to what I've been learning regarding even the biophotonic energy that comes through that food that's processed via photosynthesis. It's literally a program that's being inserted, a program of life when that vegetable or that fruit is alive. It's that an informational download for your body to receive, that helps your body regenerate and literally rejuvenate back to its prime state, which we know, that this skeletal system regenerates every 7 years. I mean, with the way that the systems regenerate every few years, if we took care of our bodies, we would have a brand new body. Every 8 years, just short of a decade. And so that explains how was it Methuselah that lived to be almost 1,000 years? You know what I'm saying? And so there's a lot of just insightful things in everything that you said. And so I do kind of see it that uh, it's not just the hate that we have for ourselves when we're putting that stuff into our bodies, but a high level of ignorance. You know what I'm saying? And that ignorance was perpetuated via the ignorance of our parents and their parents. I honestly don't think it goes back as far as a lot of people think. I think it only goes back a few hundred years, in reality, that people knew how to take care of themselves with herbs and with vegetables, with cannabis, with the things that the Most High gave us to take care of ourselves. And so I think, again, that's why they ended up having to go the way of nanotechnology to emulate the effects of the parasites. And so I think that we have a mixture of various parasites and types of parasites and candida that attack our different systems, our different energy systems, which are the chakras, which, if you want to look at it in that spiritual aspect, those are the demons, right? That have to be overcome in each garden if we want to own that garden. And so it does come down to personal responsibility and accountability, all the way from thought and emotion down to the physical aspect of what you put in your body and how you treat your body. And so that's one of the reasons, man, that I really just felt a strong pull to have you on is you're touching on shit with a lot of the stuff that you're posting recently that resonates and I feel really is just confirms a lot of the things that Source showed me on a spiritual level, regarding the healing that I've gone through, and even the things that you touched on, regarding how scary the heart surgery and things like that are. My many family members, including my father-in-law, face those things, and it can be, I mean, it's not just scary for the person going through it, but fuck, man, I seen my wife suffer through those times of his health wavering. And I just man, I appreciate all your input, man. I am going to pop this video on regarding the parasites, and then we'll look at wrapping it up. And I am actually going to send you this article that I wanted to go through with you, stop5g.cz. It's regarding nanotech, coronavirus, bioweaponry, and the activation by these 5G millimeter waves, because that one right there is probably going to be another 3-hour show just on that. And how really what I'd like you to do is, as we go through some of these things, for the next show, man, just really just seek Source on how he would have you share all of the wisdom that you have in these things, and how some of these people, man, like that are very stubborn and are suffering from that cognitive dissonance, how you could be used to help them understand the damage that they're doing, not only to their body but to this creation, man, with what they're doing to their body, knowing that we are co-creators, you know what I'm saying, and that this does actually have an effect on a much deeper level than the physical body. But we have, the subtle body and the energy body and the spiritual body. And so we have various aspects to our body, the light body. And again, I think that you bring a lot to the table, and how we can unify them all and bring them all in balance via what the Source, what the Most High, what Source has given us in herbs. And so I'm going to pop this on, man, and then we can wrap it up for tonight.
Yeah, word. Let's check it out.
Connections that we think deserve to pseudoscience will undoubtedly see the value in the message I haven't seen much info on. Is it possible that there's a link between demonic entities and the negative parasitic beings that live in our bodies? There's some really intriguing connections that we think deserve to be explored. Many of you, even those who actually like this channel, will likely be dismissive of this information or label this as pseudoscience. The truly curious and ambitious, though, will undoubtedly see the value in the message and personal stories shared with this presentation. When we talk about demons, what are we talking about? Evil spiritual entities? Or are they just a figment of our imagination? Well, I would say they are very real, and not only are they spiritual beings, but they can manifest into this world in many ways, and one of those ways is through parasitic organisms. Let's start with, what are the common symptoms of demon possession? 1. They have the power to influence your mind and to fill it with destructive thoughts. 2. They can have an influence on the dream realm, manifesting as shadow beings during sleep paralysis. 3. Possession usually involves becoming sick and constantly tired. 4. Your spiritual powers and ambition begin to diminish. 5. Material and egotistical desires that end up driving the person possessed and mad. And that's just the start. I'm sure it could go on, but I want you to think about the connection between demons and the infestation of parasites in the body. Now, before I continue, I just want to say that I'm sure there are specific cases of demon possession that go into its own, like the foaming from the mouth, the deep evil voices, or that's not what I'm talking about. While it is possible that there could be some cases where that happens, it's mostly a Hollywood dramatization in order to separate demon possession from disease. What we're about to cover is really deep, but hang on and channel that inner light. There's no reason to be afraid. I'm basically implying that we are always possessed by multiple different demons to one degree or another. This is also connected to the other video that we've made on the Nephilim and Archons, but this has more to do with our modern lifestyles and what we digest, physically and mentally. Most humans are not aware of how many parasites they really have. I'll throw myself on that boat. For most of my life growing up, I thought that was something that only happened in third world countries. Boy, was I wrong. I think most Americans share this silly way of thinking, not knowing that almost all of our eating habits result in parasitic beings finding a home in the waste that fills our body. If you eat meat, let me just let you know you are filled with parasites. Not only are high protein diets extremely acidic, but the body doesn't know what to do with all this excess protein. What ends up happening is our sewage system gets backed up. Also, most of us are completely enzyme deficient, and there's no way that our bodies can actually digest this meat. So you know what happens? It literally stays in your body and rots. If only you knew what your colon really looked like inside. Oh, but you're vegan. You think you're an exception? Think again. Most vegans consume an extreme amount of protein in order to compensate for not eating meat. Most of them cook all of their foods. Again, enzyme deficient, and top that with genetic deficiencies, we end up having issues removing toxins from our body. All of this cooked food is dead, and your body has no idea what to do with all this toxicity. The only way to protect itself is by forming mucus. This mucus is what's saving your body. What tends to happen is this hardens and stays in our body for a very long time. That's the point I'm trying to drive home. If you eat 3 times a day, you're cooking your foods, and you're not taking extra measures to cleanse your body, then you are most likely infested with parasites, meat or no meat. Most of you are probably saying to yourself or in the comment section, well, I feel fine. I'm doing great. Yeah, okay, that's what you think. Or is that what the parasites are thinking for you? I think most of us can't imagine the amount of energy that we could have if we remove these parasites from the body. It's not just that. Most people don't even realize that their thoughts are not even their own. This also explains why it's so difficult to silence the mind.
It's not really that crazy to think that if there is something inside of us that wanted to thrive, like a parasite, that they could influence their host to make decisions that create a more hospitable environment for their kind. These microbial organisms absolutely have the ability to steer the thoughts, emotions, and actions of their host. Sounds an awful lot like possession to me. When you get cravings for unhealthy foods, that isn't you. It's the parasites. Fast on juices for a week and you'll see what I'm talking about. You won't be able to think straight at first, just like a drug withdrawal.
If this is your first time hearing any of this, then I would take it slow. Research real people who've succeeded with fasting. Starting a detox too fast will shock your system. And when these parasites start dying, it's going to make you very sick. Let me just put it this way. You have beings inside of you that just sit and demand what to eat. They feast all day long, and then they poop inside of you all day and night. You still don't see the connection? Then let me make it very clear. Parasites have the ability to affect your mind, as your kidneys will be overworking, and eventually, you're not filtering out your blood so that you become more and more toxic to the point where most of your endocrine system fails to operate as it should. You might say, well, my blood tests show up fine. Yeah, I wouldn't rely on that. One of the most important functions of the body is to keep the blood alkaline. All this toxicity and waste is being removed by the lymphatic system. We'll only see problems in the blood once it becomes very serious. That goes back to people thinking they're just fine. Well, we usually don't become aware of disease in our body until it manifests as a serious issue. Most people don't consider that maybe most of their tiny symptoms like tiredness, headaches, bad odor, depression, and itchiness are the first signs that something isn't right. But what do most people do? They go to the doctor and get these symptoms suppressed with what they assume will be a quick fix, give you the impression that everything is okay. If you were trying to tell me this stuff a year ago, I wouldn't buy it. I'm one of those people who literally never get sick. I'm always very positive, so I just attributed it to that maybe my immune system was strong, but I was wrong. I have had symptoms my whole life, and I have never had the eyes and awareness to realize that it wasn't normal. I was in denial. So don't get scared. But there is a truth to this that I know many are not ready for, because what this all has to do with is a complete change in how we live our lives and perceive reality. And I realize change is scary to most of us. I understand that we can't all be Buddha. I know that might sound strange, but if you're on a computer, then technically you're sinning. But that's the thing, we all have to balance. We can't just completely remove ourselves from society. We can take it step by step. And maybe one day, a change will take place in this realm. This video is not a solution video, but more of a discussion, a challenge to question everything we know about every facet of life. If we can accept that we have parasites, we can start to see why this would be connected to demons. Parasites are beings of death. They thrive off of death and rotting. They too can have an influence on your dreams. Here's an example. One evening, I went to bed feeling pretty good until I woke up from a very strange dream. In the dream, there were these white spiders inside of my body coming out of my mouth. They were white fuzzy spiders. I woke up and I felt absolutely horrible. My throat hurt extremely bad. I go to look in the mirror, open my mouth, and all I could see were these white fuzzy dots on the back of my throat. I had strep, and I swear that I had no feeling of a sore throat before going to bed, so it had nothing to do with like my subconscious picking up small details or something. No, this was a dream about parasites in my body right before I got sick. Luckily, I recovered in one day from drinking apple cider and eating plenty of fruits.
When I was young, I was diagnosed with ADD and then schizophrenia, though my mother debated it with the doctor until the schizophrenia was downgraded to tinnitus. So they put me on Ritalin, but it didn't help. I suffered from visual hallucinations in school, making it impossible to concentrate. The doctors and specialists admitted that they didn't know what the root of the problem was or how to fix it. I was only instructed to go purchase expensive pills that caused ulcers in my stomach, which they then prescribed even more medicine for. It was a vicious cycle. On top of it all, I was always hearing these nasty voices in my head. It sounded like static from a radio or manifested in my own voice, telling me that I was worthless and life was pointless, so why not just do whatever? I think a common misconception is that freedom of being an adult is getting to drink booze and eat as much pizza and ice cream as you want, but I have to disagree. Those are drugs pushed on us as kids, and when we become adults, we think that we're choosing to eat those things, but all that's really happening is we're becoming slaves to our cravings. Much like a thrall is a slave to a demon. It's exactly like drug addiction. It's called the Food and Drug Administration for a reason. Why would food and drugs be lumped together if they didn't serve the same purpose? Alcohol is even called spirits. When someone has an addiction problem, they call it demons. It's also common knowledge that addiction is a disease. Though if addiction is a disease, as well as a demon, then what makes any other disease not a form of demon? Typically, parasites are these long worm-like things or fibrous beings that inhabit our guts, and they resemble antennae or fiber optics. Begs the question, if parasites can influence our thoughts, and they can influence our dreams, and they can influence our desires, then could it be possible that parasites are antennae for demonic entities to manifest in the body? Para, prefix. A prefix with many meanings, including alongside of, beside, near, resembling, beyond, apart from, and abnormal. Site, an area of ground, in which a town, building, or monument is constructed. So if we imagine our bodies as temples, this word begins to make a lot of sense. Something that is inside your body that shouldn't be. Almost all religions attribute worms and parasites as being evil or the work of Satan. Is it influenza? Or is it the influence of demonic entities? The word influenza even sounds like influence, so what do people say when you sneeze? They bless you. Why would they do that? However, I expect that the perpetuation of that idea is to cause confusion and mistrust in all things spiritual.
Even schizophrenia, where many people see and hear evil voices from all around, could be caused by a disharmony of the body and an infestation of parasites. From Science Daily, quote, recent studies have found evidence of worrisome impacts, including an association with schizophrenia because of the parasite T. gondii. It's found in the brain as well in the muscles. In addition, field and laboratory studies in mice, rats, and people have shown that infection with T. gondii triggers change in behavior and personality. There's a study that goes over this same exact thing. A growing body of evidence suggests a correlation between schizophrenia and exposure to infectious agents. The majority of studied cases concerns the infection caused by T. gondii, an obligatory intracellular parasite that infects about 1/3 of the entire human population, according to the available data. Quote, numerous epidemiological case control studies show a higher prevalence of T. gondii infestation in individuals with various psychiatric and behavior disorders, including schizophrenia. A lot of these studies are just focusing on one parasite alone, but really, they have no clue what's actually going on in the body. You have parasites in your brain, in your heart. It destroys what you have left of good bacteria, just making it easier for the parasites to thrive. The only way to get rid of them is through awareness and diet. This video is not about that. In time. For the most part, the goal of this video is to connect two different subjects that normally aren't associated with each other. For many, spiritual realities are very hard to understand and to experience. Most humans have completely lost the sense of feeling within their body. An animal knows when they eat something that they're not supposed to, and then they'll never eat it again. Not humans though. We just stuff ourselves all day long with mostly indigestible foods that just sit in our body and rot, while our body overworks and tires itself trying to get rid of all this waste that never ends. The breath, ego. For this too is controlled by parasites. Just 5 minutes of relaxation can completely restart your system.
And let me jump back over here. And so I think that's a pretty insightful video that kind of just confirms and goes over everything that we were just talking about. And I think that, you know, I want to encourage everybody that's listening, again, whether it's on the live or on the replay, that if you're experiencing more gallons, if you're experiencing these different types of symptoms or experiences that were spoken about in this video regarding demonic possession and the way that these parasites can control our thoughts. Raj touched on that before we even popped the video on, that you know, the film that wraps your stomach is actually the same film that wraps your brain. And so you have a neural network in your stomach, just like you do in your heart. You have the same type of neurons that you have in your brain as you have in your heart. And so you have a heart, mind, and gut connection that, you know, a lot of people talk about trust your gut. You know, it's really difficult to trust your gut when you're feeding the candida, so to speak, when you're feeding these parasites, not only through the toxic foods that we take in, but through the negative thought waves, thought forms, and emotions. The electromagnetic waves that they produce in our bodies can actually perpetuate and strengthen and cause these things to multiply in us, giving them power, more power, causing them to spread. and causing the again the many different types of viruses to manifest. And I think that one of the aspects in closing, before I give Raj the floor, before we close, is the fact that our bodies are amazing. Our bodies, these avatars, are created in such a way that we can overcome all of these things. No weapon formed against us shall prosper, right? And when we come into that understanding that perfect love casts out fear, and that we can detox these things spiritually through love, we also need to understand that all things are connected, and that we don't just go off on this spiritual rant and think that if we just hide ourselves in this, um, in a different illusory reality, and we just move from one illusion to another, that it's going to bring about a complete healing, then we are deceived. And that it even says that in scripture: if any man thinks he knows anything, he knows nothing as he ought to, and that man is deceiving himself. And so when we think that, oh well, it's only through thought, or it's only through a physical form that you do these things, we're missing the point. And I think that that's why so many people that have these keys, man, so many people have this fucking gnosis, but they get stuck on one aspect and one thing. And I think that that's why those of us who have these keys, we got to come together to unlock all of these fucking various vaults that are holding this cosmic information, this heavenly information, this information from source. And that way we can connect the dots and put it all together and overcome these things. You know what I'm saying? And so, family, I fucking love the work that you're doing, and it's really just shown a great light into all the research that I've been doing. And I can't even express the excitement that I have for the next episode. I really want to take again some time to just give you the floor, and how we can somebody, regardless of where they're at, first coming into this knowledge, or moving through the various aspects, how we can unify these schools of thought of how do we bring into subjection the mind, the emotion, and the body, so that we come to a point where we understand not only all of these things regarding knowledge, but the actual implementation of how we can heal each other, how we can heal ourselves, how we can heal this world. Because again, these things they feed off of what many of us in the conscious community call loosh, and it's that electromagnetic energy that these negative emotions can produce. And so, on the physical level, those negative emotions, that loosh, can also be found in like all of the refined processed white sugars and white flour, the things that turn it into sugar instantly, these things that can block you up. And I think that you have such a great skill set in how to heal from that, and how to implement the herbs, and again, the natural remedies that we've been given. And so I think that this is really just a connection from source. And whether it's one person on my platform that receives it, or it's all 3,000 plus on Facebook, and 300 plus on YouTube, then I know it's all worth it, and I know it is from source. And so, taking in regards the video and anything that I've stated, is there anything that you want to add in closing, family?
Well, I mean, first, I thank you for sharing that video. It's a very, very good introductory explanation to that kind of understanding. If you start fasting and you start trying to um, correct whatever health issue you have naturally, you'll literally experience that some way, whether it be in the impulses, in the dreams, in whatever which way, you will somehow feel some other presences, and how that influences and impacts you on your journey of getting um, to a more optimal point. Because if health is anything, I think the best way to describe it is how Professor Arnold Arendt described it. And he made a formula, and it was health is your vitality minus any obstructions. So vitality, like vital energy, your 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 true energy. People get energy and stimulation mixed up. Your energy is it comes from inside. It comes from the soul, it comes from the spirit. And that's what you have when you wake up in the morning. Before you have your coffee, before you have your breakfast, be it at high noon or the crack of dawn. All that would be stimulation, but your true energy level, that is that minus any obstruction you have, that's your level of health. Um, as far as a simple thing to keep close in your mind on that process uh, is just is simply breath. Like when you really understand that oxygen is the most important kind of fuel for the body, or you can call oxygen, you can call prana, you can call breath, whatever which term you prefer. Um, the things that inflame your chest, the things that make your gut swollen, so you take more shallow breaths. Those are the things that are going to cause more disease and pain and inflammation, and feed the candida and feed the thrush and any worms or any other colonies, be it in the gut or the heart or the muscles or wherever. And just keeping that understanding, you'll be able to have the discernment of what is and isn't really beneficial.
Mm.
Um, I always want to thank you for um, having me on here and giving me some feedback on or letting me know how my research and the information I've been spreading can relate to your personal experience and other people's experience of these same type of things. Um, and oh yeah, with the next stream we do, you had brought up maybe a three-way stream between you, me, and Cordezy. I think that'd be a really good idea. I think that the synergy there would um, really create a lot of important insight that people need, especially in these times. And then the last thing I had to say was just if anybody watching this now or later is looking for some actual soul food, some self food for really affordable prices and extremely high quality, they can check out Raja Herbal Remedies. That's RAJAHERBALREMEDIES.com. It's hard to find it on a Google search. Typing that simple web address in is probably the easiest way to get there. You can also get the link off of my Facebook, Roger Polinsky, ROGERPALINSKY. We're all about symbiotic deals here. It's not any sort of um, um, profit in mind first. I really am trying to find a sort of way to get my income and get my energy that I can live off of in a positive symbiotic way that uh, doesn't keep me trapped in this cycle of samsara, to put it most bluntly. Um, but yeah, I guess then thanks again for doing all of these streams that you do, and bringing people together that have a lot of this insight that um, we're being distracted from and steered away from, because stuff like this is really um, I hate using the term progressive because of how it's like the term sustainable. It's like a buzzword for these globalists to sell their bullshit with. But no, it is an actual progressive thing that we need to be doing, connecting to um, move closer to sovereignty, independence, and away from dependence and this this control grid of these motherfucking psychopaths.
Definitely, because we do have that sovereignty, man, and it just takes us standing up, right? I seen that meme where it's the chessboard is on top of the backs of the slaves, and all it takes for them to lose their whole game is for the slaves to stand up, and that's really what we're doing right now, and coming together collectively and discussing these things, and just really going into those areas and searching those realms that the common man literally fears to even consider. And so it takes it takes a fucking it takes a warrior, man, to go through some of the things that it takes to achieve this kind of knowledge, and so nobody really should take it lightly. These live streams, these podcasts, this information that we put out there, because that shit didn't come free, and you should really be appreciative. When people who have gone through the hellfire to obtain this knowledge, this gnosis, are willing to share it with you and give it away to you, and so this is my brother right here. I know that he's gone through hellfire and experienced it in a very personal way, to achieve the gnosis that he has. And so, brother, I do look forward to that three-way live stream with DZ, man. And I can't thank you enough, bro. And we didn't even get a chance to get to this whole the Vodafone executive that's his whistleblowing video about 5G coronavirus, and how these things are actually being moved into that direction of tighter security, surveillance, and really going from an outward surveillance to an inward surveillance via these things that we kind of started to crack the egg on tonight, the quantum dots and the nanotechnology that they've been working on perfecting, which will bring about that state, if we allow it, of total and complete control of not only the neural system, but every aspect of this Tesla coil, that this avatar that we possess, this what does it say in scripture? It's a vessel of clay, an earthen vessel that houses the Spirit of God, and so it's a very powerful tool if we learn how to number one, heal it, and then begin to utilize it and learn how to manipulate the energy that we have access to in our own bodies, and even that can help along with the healing as we learn how to shift from the stimulants, shift away from the stimulants, like fucking rotting flesh and chemicals, and back into the productive organisms and enzymes that we have in our natural foods, the biophotonic light and energy, and again wisdom from the Most High that we get through those foods. It's going to be a beautiful thing, and I already see it, man. Eventually, people are, regardless of what camp you stand in, man, when this shit goes down, collectively, people are going to see what it's going to take, and it is that self-responsibility, self-accountability, of understanding and overstanding the power that we have individually. And when you do that and you understand how we connect as a collective, as a collective bioorganism, and to understand the power that we have collectively, it's going to take this realm, this entire realm as we know it, to a whole other level. And the powers that be want to put it out as doom and gloom, and again this scripted prophecy that I honestly kind of lean towards that preterism camp. And no, I don't agree with all of the doctrines of preterism, but that viewpoint of a lot of these things in Revelation already happened in the first century, shortly after the coming of Christ. And right now, as the beast has been loosed from the sea, it's all being scripted again to try and deceive the masses, even the elect. And brother, I feel that elect spirit in you. And so I thank you for sharing your time. I thank you for sharing your gnosis. And I thank you for sharing your spirit, because essentially that's what we're doing is, I know that when our cells collect enough of this energy, it can cause that cell to die out, or it can cause it to backfire. And instead of reproducing and splitting off and creating a new healthy cell, it can cause a fragmented or a damaged cell. And so that's what happens when we hold on to the knowledge that we have and it gets stagnant. It can either kill us and be such a heavy weight on us that it is degenerative rather than regenerative. And so I want to encourage you, brother, continue doing what you're doing. Share that light. Be that light. Fuck just sharing it. Be that light, man, in this dark world. And whatever the method is, if you got to keep slapping motherfuckers with the truth, continue to do it. But I do see the far reach and effect of the new spin you've been putting on things, on walking people through, just, man, I tend to fall into this habit of fucking calling people ignorant and idiots and just really unproductive ways of communicating. And so I appreciate it when I come across a post from somebody who's fucking passionate like you, who sees the ignorance in the world today, who can take the time to articulate these things in a productive manner, that will further this collective into that new heaven and new earth that, baby, it's already here. You know what I'm saying? And so thank you, brother.
Oh yeah, I appreciate all that. Thank you, my brother.
I know I talk a lot, man, but I feel like there's a lot to say. So
yeah, there's an infinite amount of information to pull from and ways to take it, and it's always good to have people who can break it down and explain it in depth in different ways.
definitely, bro. So I'm gonna wish you a good evening, a good night. I know it's probably late as hell where you're at, man. It's 11 o'clock where I'm at. So
yeah, it's 12. I'm up till 2-3 anyways.
word. We'll definitely, man. I mean, shit, this 3.5 hours flew, and so it's not just gonna be one more. Hopefully, man, if you're down, we'll make this a regular thing, and I'll get you on this. And again, anybody who's willing to share this information that they've gone to hell to obtain, is welcome on my platform, and will, as long as you're willing to. So until next time, brother, just stay up, man, and be strengthened and be balanced, bro.
Oh yeah, we'll do this again soon, my brother.
For sure.
Peace, family.
Peace. All right, family. So again, if you guys would, I did put it in the link. I am going to go ahead and throw up a banner real quick. And in closing, if you made it 3.5 hours, I'm also going to add it into the comments section after the video, after the live stream is over. But I'm going to create a banner real quick with the website. And I did see Angel Pardee asking for a recipe. And so, Raj, I don't know if you're still watching. If we can, I don't know if y'all can connect on Facebook. But Angel, I would just encourage you to go to rajahherbalremedies.com. And again, let me just throw that in here and add this banner in and show it right here. Rajahherbalremedies.com. And I'm sure that Raj would be able to, more than willing and more than able to help you. You were asking for some type of recipes for these remedies, these herbal remedies. And so if there's anybody that can help you, this brother can help you. He'll get you hooked up, and just get in touch with him. Again, there's his website. I'll add it in the comment section. And family, I want to wish y'all a good night. I want to wish y'all just again that wholeness and that balance. Know that you're whole. Know that you lack nothing. Know that there's nothing. I'm going to show this comment. Raj actually just commented in the chat to friend request him on Facebook. He has a guide that you can send him. The name of the account is Roger Polinsky. I'll actually add a link to his Facebook profile as well. Angel, that way if you want to get a hold of him, I'm sorry if I said Angie earlier. Angel, if you want to get a hold of him, Angel, and link up with him that way through that network, then you can definitely do that. Awesome. I'm glad that you got it. And I'm glad that you were able to make a connection, Raj, as well. I know that Angel and her husband, they've been viewers for a while, and they're very sincere. And so, take care of them, man. And I know you will. And so, family, again, if you're catching the live stream, if you're catching the replay, hit up Raj at his website and add him on Facebook. I'll have the links for both his Facebook, and I'm not sure if he has a YouTube channel. If he doesn't, man, this brother really ought to think about starting one. And I know I definitely promote it because there's a lot of information that we couldn't even get out tonight, because I know I can. There's so many subjects that I wanted to cover with this brother, because they're all so relevant with what we're going through. And so, again, family, just be steady and know that you're whole. Know that you lack nothing. Know that the Spirit of God dwells within you, and know that you're mighty and you're powerful. And that's really what the enemy fears, is the fact that you have the sovereignty and the and the creativity of the Almighty Most High. And that's what they fear the most. Just like the demons trembled when Christ came and they said, I know who you are. You know what I'm saying? What are you here for? Are you here to torment me? Yeah, you know what? That same energy that propels and moves us into those places of doing things that are out of character, doing things that we know go against everything that's within us, that we discern are not beneficial. We can bring those things under subjection of the power that we have. Again, the sovereign and mighty power of the Most High dwells within us, family. And so stand on that. Again, in closing, I'll always encourage you, love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. And remember, Christ said, I don't care what camp you come out of, if you read scripture and you believe in Christ, remember that Christ said, and again, whatever camp, whatever belief system you are, is it Luke 17? The kingdom is within you. If the kingdom is within you, where is the Most High? He's seated on the throne in the kingdom. And so manage your kingdom well, family, and don't let anybody steal your crown, because right now is the coronavirus. And this coronavirus, they're trying to steal your crown through deceitful means, through dark magic, and we ain't having it, family. We are the light in this dark world, and we ain't the false light that's coming to perpetuate the system, but we are the light of the world, and we will project the light of the Creator into these dark crevices and back rooms, and all the things that are done in secret are being revealed, family. It is the time of the apocalypse, and it's nothing to fear. It's not the end. The end is the beginning, and we are here now. And so be present in the now, be an observer, and in all things do no harm, and love with that perfect love that casts out fear, family. Fear not, because love is already won. Oh.